Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Hellbent Holler Live. We do this every Monday at 8 p.m. We are so glad that you could join us. My name is Jessi. This is Joe. And let's do a sound check. Let's make sure everybody can hear us. Let us know in the chat that you can hear us. And we will get a rolling, everybody. So we have people from all over in the chat right now. I think we have Ozzy Baza. He's from Australia, so he might be the furthest away that we've got. But we have people from all over.
Looks like people can hear us, so we're set to go.
We are ready to rock. I'm going to throw up all of our little bells and whistles here. Look at that. Hellbent Holler Live and ready to rock. Cool. All right. Okay.
So, guys, before we get started up, unfortunately, I know a lot of you guys have heard the news, but Linda Godfrey actually passed away. It's just a really tragic blow to everybody who's interested in this subject, everybody who has ever been interested in this subject. She was one of the first ones to really take like a serious academic look at this. No sensationalism, just collecting and reporting on what she was told from people, from witnesses and all that.
Yeah, and she was the first person to really put the subject of Dogman, of course, in her book, she calls them man-wolves, which I love that, to the forefront and really chronicled these encounters for the first time in a really concise and actually humorous way. She had a wonderful sense of humor. Her writing style is very easy and enjoyable and fluid, and it's just every book that she's written has just been enjoyable to read.
Mm-hmm.
She was really a gem and a really nice person to boot, just a really wonderful person. So rest in peace to Linda Godfrey. We had the opportunity to meet her one time, and that was in 2018, and she was just the sweetest thing in the world. So we wanted to send our condolences to her family. And if you haven't read any of her books, make sure you pick some up, because her work is going to forever be a part of our journey, and it should be a part of yours as well.
Yeah, she's like one of the few people. I mean, there's a lot of compilation of story type books out there. And there's some other authors that do a really good job of doing that. But as far as like the subject of Dogman goes, she was not somebody who was really into this sort of stuff. She was just kind of thrust into it. And I'm sure you guys all know the story. And she was just somebody who kind of just seems like it was just kind of, I don't want to say forced upon her, but she kind of just felt like she had to follow the story, and she followed it and just did a phenomenal job of it. I mean, whenever anybody's talking about it to us that, oh, they think the subject is too sensationalized and it's not, there's no way it's real, we always recommend that they check out one of Linda Godfrey's books. So yeah,
she was a true journalist. Wherever the story took her, she went with it. She didn't try to create a narrative. She didn't try to go in her own direction. She went with it. She was also a cartoonist, and did a lot of the cartoons for that local paper. And her cartoons are just the cutest things ever. So she was definitely a gem, and definitely just a sweet and just thorough and tenacious individual. So she's definitely going to be missed.
It's funny because we saw her at a CryptidCon the first year. I think it was the first year we went to CryptidCon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the first year we went to CryptidCon, it's in this tiny little hotel. And we don't really get starstruck very easily.
No.
Just because we just don't, you know what I'm saying? There's only like I hate to say it, there's only like a few people that really like publish stuff and everything like that we find their stuff worthwhile. Just you can only read somebody just like, encounter collections before it just all kind of starts to blend together.
Mm-hmm.
But we were fanning over Linda Godfrey. We were in the little hotel bar restaurant, like 11 o'clock at night or something like that. And Linda Godfrey's over my shoulder having dinner with somebody. And we're sitting there going, you just go say hi to her. No, you go say hi to her. We don't want to bother her at dinner. So I ended up sneaking a selfie over my shoulder of me and Linda Godfrey. So there's my big head, and then Linda Godfrey like 8 feet behind. That was my big highlight of CryptidCon.
Joe's like
sneaking some stalker selfie. So
oh god, yeah. But yeah, she was definitely an interesting, just an all around sweet person too. You know, you'll have some people that get involved in this who are involved in it for ego, or you know, end up getting an ego, and just everybody loved her, and you know, followed her around everywhere and loved her. She worked with Seth Breedlove on a documentary before. She just loved talking about the subject, and it's not something that she got involved in, you know, herself. She got thrust into the world.
Yeah, and she would just
monsters.
She would just document and report what people told her, and people would ask her what her opinion is, and she goes, you know, I don't know, but and she would go, obviously there's certain themes that seem to come up with a lot of these. There's certain trends that you can identify, certain, like, you know, patterns that you can see, and she would give possibilities, but she never really got wedded to any one particular idea on that.
Yeah.
So, you know, and she wouldn't really filter any of the accounts either. Some of the accounts are pretty wild, pretty out there, but she would go, hey, I'm hearing this similar really wild out there account from somebody half a continent away. So there's got to be something to it. So
yeah.
All right.
So everybody in the chat is RIP Linda, of course.
Dooster wants to know if that was a Ouija planchette on your cup.
Yes, it is. I got this at the punk rock flea market this weekend, or Friday. My friend Katie and I went to the punk rock flea market in Greenville, South Carolina, and somebody had these. So I was like, I must have that. I love my hot teas, so definitely had to have the planchette coffee mug, or tea mug, actually.
Todd Brown, sad news, but her books were my early intro into cryptids. Yeah, it was I've always been interested in folklore and a passing interest in a lot of just like weird kind of paranormal, supernatural, you know, cryptid type things. But Dogman, I always thought it was just a little, you know, it was a little out there. I mean, for me, just like for a lot of people, the more extreme characters in this field kind of become the face of it a lot of times. And I think that hurts the credibility of it sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Dogman has an image problem, you know, as far as the people that are involved in it. And when she and I lived in New Orleans, for some reason, the Michigan Dogman story started making like the rounds down there and everything. And I started checking her books out, and I'm going, you know, it was the first thing that I went, wow, there's something to this. I mean, there's a lot of people seeing something, and the stories are very, very similar. Of course, you know, they have like different types. Your Anubis type, some of them seem more demonic, some of them seem completely flesh and blood, but no matter what the type was, there were multiple reports on it. You know what I'm saying? So, and she just did such a great job. You could see her journalistic background. She didn't write for sensationalism. She just basically conveyed the facts that were told to her. So yeah, just like a lot of people, that was my introduction kind of to the serious nature of Dogman.
Yeah.
So.
And it's always, I always like drive home. She just had such a nice she had a great sense of humor too. Cause she always would be like, okie dokie. Well, turns out that they can disappear into thin air. So there's that.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely she's going to be missed. And it's a shame too, because you're starting to see Dogman and the concept of like upnight canines start to get taken a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see it swell, and she's like the godmother of all this. You know what I'm saying? So
well, she laid that groundwork for that to actually be a thing, instead of it be I know that we right now have a lot of creepypasta on the internet and people talking about it on YouTube, such as we are right now, and sensationalizing it to a degree. But that laid the groundwork for serious research.
Yeah, for serious research into it. So huge influence on us, and you know, she's definitely going to be missed. And it's sad, like I was saying, it's starting to see some groundswell with it right now and being taken seriously. And you know, it's a shame that she won't be around to kind of get the recognition that was due to her. Yeah, you know, for really pioneering a lot of this stuff. So
Mark Troll is here. Hello, Mark. So all right, so we are going to we're going to get into it. We are going to get into hello, Frank. We're going to get into the chat and get started.
Hope everybody had a pretty good Thanksgiving out there. We
had a very low key Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we weren't able to get out this weekend. We had a massive thunderstorm system move through the area we go to. You guys have seen the videos. The area we've been going to lately, it's all like old, unmaintained logging roads.
Yeah.
And there's a real good chance of having a tree come down on you while you're up there. We've gotten blocked in a couple of times, and we carry a chainsaw, tow straps, and everything, but that ground up there is really wet right now. So we were really concerned about going up and just having, when it's raining too hard, you just can't do anything. I mean, your recorders can't pick anything up. Your camera equipment's useless. So we called a lid on it this weekend and just,
which is unfortunate, but it happens. Sometimes you end up having to do that, and I hate it, but it happens.
Oops, clip the, William Kennedy says, hello, William. Real Wolfmen, True Encounters in Modern America is his favorite book for her. Yeah, you know what? That or American Monsters. I really liked that one. The original Michigan Dogman one's good. Hunting the American Werewolf. So I think we probably have not all of them, but we got a lot of them. We got a lot of her books.
I
think
I have.
We got a couple signed copies.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think almost all of them are signed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Decoy is a new subscriber here, sent by Dark Waters. Thank you so much. Dark Waters is awesome. I appreciate all the work he puts in and everything that he does, and I appreciate him shouting us out when he does. That means a lot to me.
Koya said Seth Breedlove did a documentary on the Loup Garou that she was in. Yeah, and I'm interested to see that new Seth Breedlove Jersey Devil doc
Bloodlines.
That he did. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about it, and I just, we're really lucky to have Seth Breedlove in this field. We're really lucky to have somebody who can take such a professional and just, it's not sensationalized. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it's a serious look, but it's fun serious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's enjoyable. It doesn't take itself it takes the subject seriously, but it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable watching this stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about. Everybody's going, oh, there's a new Bigfoot documentary on like Tubi or Amazon Prime. Let me sit and watch it. And it's the same stuff you've heard like over and over and over again. And you sit there and you do it because you're afraid you're going to miss something if you don't stop watching it. But his stuff's enjoyable, man.
His stuff is actually
the aesthetic's good. Everything like that's good.
All their graphic design is really good.
Yeah.
Their recreations that they've been doing lately have been amazing. It looks like the Bloodlines, the Jersey Devil one that he just put out. The Bloodlines recreations look awesome. They look awesome.
And that's hard to do a lot of times. And a lot of times that's like the weak spot of a lot of these cryptid themed like documentaries. A lot of times you're not working with a huge budget, and you try to make it as spooky as possible. But come on, man, it's a dude in a $50 Bigfoot suit, tromping through the woods for your B-reel.
Oh yeah.
There. And
Sam Burton says Jersey Devil was awesome. I bet it was.
Yeah.
See, we have not had a chance to watch it yet. And then also Kaiju Ninja follows up with, did you watch the Alaskan Coastal Sasquatch?
No, we haven't yet.
We haven't.
We watched the first like 30 seconds
and
of
then
it.
we were like, okay, we need to dedicate time to sit and really, really watch this. Alex does awesome work.
Alex is like one of the, because again, we mostly focus on boots on the ground. And then this is kind of like an afterthought for us, but we're like, and I hate that term, boots on the ground, but we like to be in the field. That's what's exciting to us. I mean, we enjoy this, don't get me wrong, but if it came down to, all right, you can only do one, we're going to do the field stuff. And Alex is somebody who just, I have a great deal of admiration for that guy.
Alex Petikov is what we call a hard charger.
Yeah, that's the real deal, man. And he's out there, he's doing it. We were going to hook up with him when he was in the Smoky Mountains, and the schedules wouldn't work out, but
not only does he go out and do the work, he does a great job as a filmmaker.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He does a great job documenting everything. He does a great job telling the story. Everything that he's done has just gotten exponentially better and better and better.
And same thing with like Seth Breedlove. We're better off. I don't care what sort of like weird little niche you're into. We're better off having Seth Breedlove and Alex Petikov be kind of like ambassadors of this weirdness. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, like I said, it's really good to see somebody take they're not just doing it because it's their job. You know what I'm saying? You can tell it's something that's a labor of love when they put stuff out. So now I'm really interested in seeing that latest Alex Petikov video. Really interested in seeing it.
Yep. Trying to catch up on some of this.
Yeah, trying to catch up. So
talking about Linda. Yeah, she really pioneered the Beast of Bray Road stuff. Dixie cryptid. Cool.
Yeah, we don't really. He's got a good channel. We don't really go into a lot for the encounter shows. Some of them are enjoyable, and I Sasquatch Chronicles I used to listen to pretty regularly, and I still enjoy that occasionally. But like I said, a lot of the flat out storyteller stuff, we don't really watch anymore. You know what I'm saying? Or really just do. I like the stuff where you're there. You know what I'm saying? And that's the attraction of what like Alex Pettikov and them do. That it's
right.
You know, you're there with them, so it's really neat.
Well, that's what we enjoy. That's why it's what we try to produce too.
Yeah.
Horse 454 says, has anyone ever tried to do a population density of the Bigfoot and all the, I'm assuming, sightings nationwide? The Bigfoot mapping project is sort of chronicling that. They are also trying to chronicle possible migration habits. So check that out. They're kind of mapping everything out, and they do very good infographics. So that's always interesting to check out.
All right, I gotta Coyote said he saw Expedition Dogman.
Oh, there's a follow-up.
That's where I'm going to right now. That's 73 minutes. I'll never get back. I guess I just couldn't figure out what they were going for there. The original witness was pretty compelling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Had a great story. But I couldn't figure out why the guy was crying because he saw a tree shake or a tree move or something. Maybe I didn't watch it closely enough. Maybe I drifted out at a key pivotal moment. If somebody can tell me why that guy was crying because he saw a tree move.
Why is this man crying?
Because from what I understand, they never really saw or heard anything else. And it's okay because we go out all the time and nothing happens.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing happens at all in like areas that we previously had activity at. I mean, you were at the mercy of whatever is out there in order to try to document. And even when you document it, we say evidence a lot of times. It's not really even evidence, man. It's some sort of weird activity. But I couldn't understand why the guy was crying. If I missed something, somebody please.
And also, you had one job. You're the guy filming everything.
One job, man. Just film, dude.
You couldn't film the shaking of the tree.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't even see the tree shake.
No.
The guy was crying, retelling a story of a tree shaking, and then I'm going, well, at least they're going to show the footage of it. No, we didn't get it, man. So
he was too shaken. What the Flock says, is that a planchette coffee mug? Yes, it is a planchette coffee mug. It's a little handmade coffee mug I got this weekend.
Yeah, and on the same time, I'm assuming you're talking about Bob Gimlin, the YouTube guy. I'm familiar with this channel. A bit too trusting with his witness reports. That's where that's a fine line though, because we all do it, but if you start to like edit like that, I know you want to try to like weed out the weird stuff. You know what I'm saying? And trust me, we get stuff sometimes that, well, let me back up. On 3 different occasions now, I've seen somebody chased out of a Facebook like cryptid group for whatever reason because of the way that they are trying to recount their story, and they're just using the language that they've been able to find. I've talked about it before. The guy that said he had a Wendigo on his property, and they tore him up, man. He had stuff going on his property, and he saw something that looks like it was wearing like a deer or an elk skull over his face. He doesn't know anything about this stuff. He went online and looked it up and found a Wendigo, and he goes, "Oh, that must be around my property." So yeah, it's difficult, but my only thing is that if somebody goes, "Hey, I'm having some weird stuff happening around my house. I'm having, like this guy said, a real tall, thin thing. It moves like a crackhead. It looks like it's wearing a skull." It sounds like a pretty crazy story. And then you talk to his mother. Who did we talk to?
His wife,
everybody like that. Our friend Cryptid that runs Cryptid Response was talking to him and allowed us to set in on some of the interviews. And something was going on there, man. And it sounded crazy. And a lot of people made an initial judgment on it. But some of the other stuff too, though, like, government assassins and, and everybody's like military contractors and everything. But at the same token, you don't
watching
know.
all this stuff and like watching a lot of these YouTube channels and stuff. I feel like with everybody that claims that they worked for Blackwater at this point, did Blackwater have a cryptid division?
They might have. You don't know. I mean, you don't know.
Because everybody's like, "Oh, I used to work for Blackwater." I'm like, "Oh, you did."
So,
David Kuntz says, "Sounds like Dogman is starting to take the spotlight from Bigfoot." So Dogman is definitely captured our attention, especially after we went on that first expedition to LBL. It certainly captured our attention, and we kind of pivoted away from focusing on more Bigfoot related stuff. It's honestly, and we're going to be honest here, it's because Dogman is more exciting in a way right now.
Yeah, it is. Well,
I mean personally,
it's for me, it's more exciting, and not even because of the dramatic effect of it. I mean, it's more exciting to me because on a personal level, for so many years, I kind of dismissed it,
Yeah.
and I just thought it was just one of those like internet Reddit stories. And it was just something that sounded cool. So people wanted to believe in it, and so that's how I dismissed it for so many years. And so for years I would like hear the stories and I would do whatever. And just, that's a pretty cool story, and I just kind of filed it away as just basically nonsense. And then to all of a sudden kind of get a glimpse behind the veil that there is something going on here and you don't know what it is, and to realize that when you scratch that surface off, scratch beneath the surface of these people that have these like fully fleshed out accounts, you know what I'm saying? I raised one from a pup and I did this and this. And you get beneath that. And there's people that don't really have any answers. They're just confused by what they saw. They were terrified. It was a terrifying encounter, possibly a violent encounter. And it's like, to me, it's interesting because it was always beneath the surface. And I never gave it a chance. And then, we've caught that thermal image. We've had some weird stuff happen. So I'm intrigued by it. And I think it's interesting because it was something that seems so fantastic. And now we're coming to the realization that there's something there.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's more interesting than that too. There's enough people out there really doing a serious, varying degrees of serious investigation on like Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of talk about Dogman, but there's very, very few people that go out and physically
do field expeditions
and look for it,
look for
and
evidence,
put time and energy and effort and money into it. And not just, at the most, hey, we're going to walk around this KOA campground and look for Dogman. There's very few people out there that are doing this seriously. That's why when people talk to us about like, oh, do you cast like Sasquatch footprints? Not really. There's enough people out there doing that. Now, if we found like just a baller, Sasquatch, we might.
Of course, we'd never carry.
We'd have to hike back to the car and then do all. But anyway, but there's just enough people doing that. I mean, it seems like that if we're gonna like take a serious look, our efforts and our energy are going to be better spent on something like this. So,
what the flock says, I've had 2 Bigfoot sightings in my life, and I can empathetically say that I never want to see a Dogman. I just want to go camping and fishing and be left alone. Yeah. This is really everything that I know about what I've seen, what I've experienced, what I've read about, what people have told me. I don't think we can ever go on a relaxing camping trip again.
We've given up trying to camp in that spot in North Georgia.
Yeah.
We'll stay there all night long and try to get some sleep the next day and everything like that.
But there's no way that we're going to be able to ever sleep in that area.
I mean, we finding that stuff right behind our tent like that, not realizing what came in on it. We take some risks, but at the same token, I want to be able to shut my eyes and get some sleep after being out there going at it hard for like 18 or 20 hours. So,
yeah.
So again, it's not the problem of being there at night. It's trying to go to sleep in a little thin walled tent, And
definitely not doing a hammock. That'll never happen.
And it's not like we can like take shifts because I mean, at best, we're only getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep anyway, So what are we going to do? Like split that? I'll get 2.5 hours. You get 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
and then we're going to go out and hit it hard the next day. So, Ernie Walden had said Josh Gates found proof of Sasquatch. He had unknown primate DNA. Yeah, and you know what? It's weird because you hear that pop up every once in a while, man. They, I can't remember his name. I'm sure somebody will know it. The guy that was helping Sykes out, Brian Sykes, the veterinarian, the British veterinarian guy. They found like unknown like hominid DNA in a small water source high up in like the Himalayan mountains, I believe. You constantly, not constantly, but you occasionally hear about that they find unknown DNA and then it just never seems to go anywhere. And then think about all those other like DNA samples that they might pick up human like DNA in it, and then the person just goes, it's contaminated, let's just pitch it out. So
Sam Burton says, Dogman and Bigfoot are both interesting to me. Goatman scared the crap out of me. Well, Goatman, with the Goatman Bridge story, that's a vengeful spirit story. That but then you have another Goatman. There's two Goatman stories, and they're very, very different.
Yeah.
One is more of a cryptid story, and one is like a man who's like a goat herder that is the Goatman that is now a vengeful spirit.
What's up, Martin?
Hi, Martin.
Check your messages, Martin. He was trying to experience overwhelmed with emotions of having contact the cryptid. Okay, and somebody had seen it, because the part we saw, he was just talking about the tree shaking, and nobody ever said that they had seen. So they did see something. Did they get something on camera?
I don't think they got anything on camera.
I didn't know that they'd even seen it. That's what I've constantly just gone, what am I missing here? I mean, I didn't know that they had actually sat there and gone, hey, this is what I saw. I saw a Dogman, I'm assuming, since that's what they were looking for. So
Cowboys 5 Rings says, the Jersey Devil has the potential to pass up Dogman and Bigfoot. Imagine if Jersey Devil sightings started to occur on the same level. It would be wild. Yeah, that would be insanely wild, because that has very clear demonic and satanic origins. So you're looking at something that is on a whole other level. At least with Dogman or Sasquatch, there is the possibility that these could be animals that are just undiscovered at this point, or hybrids or something like that, or an experiment gone wrong.
But this has been, well, I mean, again, I don't think that's possible, but there's a possibility that that's causing the cause for at least some of the sightings and the encounters.
Right.
But yeah, Jersey Devil,
that's straight up satanic.
That's like straight up. Yeah. I mean,
and that's straight up demonic. That would be terrifying. You are absolutely correct.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I know the basic story. I don't really know the history of like modern accounts with it. I know there was a flap back in I want to say the 80s, I think the 70s and the 80s. And I'm sure there's been sightings since then. I just don't know anything about them. It's kind of out of our area of operations. So I've got a passing familiarity with it. But
well, it's a perfect opportunity to check out Bloodlines, the Jersey Devil story by Small
you on
Town
the payroll
Monsters.
here or something? So
we haven't watched it yet, but we are going to watch it on the payroll. Yeah, Small Town Monsters is doing they're doing an event in June. So if you guys are interested, it's going to be in Canton, Ohio. It's called Monster Fest. We will definitely be there. So you guys look into that. They haven't really announced too much about it. They do have a great lineup of speakers that they've already announced, but they haven't really started promoting that heavily yet. But we'll definitely be out at that. So if you guys are doing nothing in June, you want to come out to Monster Fest and hang out, we'll definitely be there. See here.
1 second. So, guys, the reality of research is repetitive and uneventful. Sitting in the public archives for hours, talking to witnesses in person, researching everything about a location. That's how you get answers. It is. And people will constantly just, because we obviously, when we put out a video, we're condensing sometimes a couple of days down to just maybe like a 50 to 60 minute long video.
Yeah.
People will be like, y'all need to look up. I'm like, dude, we're out like scanning the trees like constantly. You don't want 60 minutes of us just craning back with with thermal scopes. But like I said, it is, man. It is. It's very boring and oftentimes very, very, very uneventful.
Yeah, we've had instances where we go out a lot of times where absolutely nothing happens. It is hours of nothing, just wandering out in the woods for hours and hours and hours and nothing happening.
We had that. We had a real dry spell for a while, and somebody was like, "Why are you guys not releasing like new videos?" And I'm going, "Guys, we're at the mercy of the activity. I mean, nobody wants to watch.
Yeah, we're at the mercy of the phenomenon at this point. So
nobody wants to watch an hour-long video once a week of us just walking around going, nothing's really going on out here. It's just
Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, have you found a Dogman print? We have found a couple of prints that are very strange, that definitely raise alarm.
We have found everything from oversized but otherwise normal looking canine prints. Now, they may have been natural, but they were on the extreme side of natural, like 5.5 inches, 6 inches, like long, but that's possible. There's like dog breeds out there. Now, we didn't find any human footprints to go along with them. So if that was somebody out walking their dog, I don't know. Some of the coy dogs in this area are getting pretty big, but that's still pretty big.
Yeah.
And then we have found the first night we were in the LBL when we got chased out by that storm, we found a footprint that had the overall shape of like a human print,
but it had claws at
on the end of it.
Yeah.
Odd looking claws at the end of it. And
that was in our werewolf experiments part 1 video towards the end when we're down at the bunker area, which was the alleged site of the 1982 massacre that occurred in the LBL. And it's the famed bunker area. And what's so strange is like we found that right near those. But we had a tornado coming in and we got kind of chased out of the LBL that night because of that tornado, because we had to get out. We had to get off of the peninsula before it struck. But we did get we did get like good footage of that, I think. I think it was decent footage of that before we got ran out. Ernie Walden says in Eastern Kentucky, they say there's a sheep squatch.
Yeah.
Running around the mountains. Yeah. I love all these regional cryptids. Is it Mark Muncy did Erie, Appalachia? It is Mark Muncy, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Mark Muncy did Erie, Appalachia. That's his latest book, I believe it is. And he talks a lot about these really kind of obscure cryptids up and down the Appalachian Mountains. And it's pretty interesting. What he calls them, like holler monsters or something like that. But yeah, that he chronicles some of those. I like all those obscure Barilla and all that stuff. Are you ready for the... Ryan Holloway says, where's the best place to see video or pics of a Dogman / Wolfman?
They're out there. I just can't vouch for any of them. We've got a thermal image of what looks like one. That at least you can say it's not pareidolia because it's heat, it's body heat. It's not just a shape in the bushes. But even then, I mean, I couldn't sit here if you put a gun to my head and said, tell me that's a Dogman. I couldn't do that. It looks like a Dogman.
We were using a high-end thermal on that. There was a Pulsar Axion XQ38 thermal that we were using that night. And we captured what appears to be a large canine. It has large ears. It's got a snout. There are 2 images captured, and there's a difference between the 2. So if this was just a stump or something like that, then it wouldn't have differences between the 2 images, where it actually looks like there's a bit of movement and an eye. And then we have images after that is completely gone. That hot shape that we captured is completely gone. Other than that, I don't know. We can't really verify a lot of this stuff. And there's a lot of hoaxers out there. But I'm sure that there's legit bits of evidence out there. It's just that it's so hard to verify everything. And you should always take everything with a grain of salt, even anything that you see that we do. But we try to be as upfront as humanly possible about everything we do. We try to just record. We just record and report, we observe and report.
Like when we got that thermal image, I sent it to a few people just to get their input on it. Bart Nunley was one of them. I sent it to Bart Nunley. I spent a lot of time looking up like other animals, especially in that area, and what they looked like on thermal. That's the one good thing about, thermal technology has gotten so much more accessible. And you go on to like coyote hunting forums or feral hog hunting forums, and these dudes use thermal like nobody's business. So you can find a lot of photos and like footage of different animals, like naturally occurring animals on thermal. But we did that. I mean, that's what we tried to do. I mean, that audio that we caught, I've had some people say, some of it sounds almost like a feral hog. And I'll go, some of it does, but some of those growls don't. Is it a possibility that a feral hog kind of just walked up to a recorder while all this other stuff was going on? It's a possibility. I mean, the feral hog didn't pick our recorder up really high in the air and then set it down in almost the same spot. So, it's I don't know. It's all a mystery.
Vicky Stocks says, take musk oil out as scent bait. Vicky, we did a scent experiment with the werewolf experiment series that we did in the LBL, and we really didn't have much luck with it.
Well,
but we had a lot of weather incidents that followed up.
We did though, because it's not a ton of luck, but the prints that we found, the ones we just mentioned, the larger human-like prints with the claws in it, those were headed towards, we had a bait station.
That's
and
true.
we couldn't follow that because we had to literally haul butt out of the LBL at this point.
Yeah.
And then we had,
and we couldn't go check our bait stations
and then,
at that point.
Yeah. Anyway. And then the amount of water that came down.
Yeah.
So we're going to replicate it. I'm not ready to write it off yet.
No,
so
I think it's a great thing to do. And I think it's a great thing to repeat over and over again, because that's what you have to do, is you have to keep trying and keep experimenting. And that's, if you don't have crazy results the first time, that doesn't mean it's not a valid thing to explore.
The sad thing is, though, is that the company that made the Sasquatch pheromone trips, they're not doing them anymore. It's a company that does like fishing scent lures and stuff like that. So they've got access to a lab to make all this. And I don't know why they started making them in the first place, but they made them for like the Skookum cast, like expedition and a few things like that. So they've just been making them, and then they just shut down like with no warning. I've kind of got an idea why they may have shut down. But they, so what we've got is all we've got now at this point, unless somebody else out there starts making a mixture of human and great ape pheromones. That all what we've got is what we've got. So we're at least going to use one of those back in the LBL again. So
Oxkira says, what's a good resource to find established research and documentation? That's the thing about cryptozoology or cryptid work or paranormal work. It's a labor of love by individuals who do it in their spare time. There's no authoritative source when it comes to this kind of work.
Yeah, and the self-appointed experts in this, we mentioned earlier that I don't get like too starstruck or fanboyish around a lot of people that are involved in this, because that's just not our thing. I mean, when you release one or two cryptid or paranormal books a year and that's your livelihood, you're going to put in whatever story you get. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to vet it. You're not a researcher at that point. You're an entertainer, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? I like to be entertained. You know, I've found some of those books to be extremely entertaining. You got to do something to keep the lights on and to keep yourself fed, man, you know, but that's something that you struggle with constantly. Again, like I said, I mentioned earlier, those 3 cases that got laughed off of Facebook that ended up, there was something going on there. A lot of people dismissed that out of hand. I'm sure that we have dismissed stuff out of hand just because no matter how even keeled and neutral you try to be, you know, you carry some natural prejudices along about this. And I hear stuff and I just go, no freaking way that happened. I mean, pretty much all you can look for are the people like Linda Gottfried, Barton Nunley, you know, people that have actually spoken to these witnesses. They have the information about it, who this person was, when I spoke to them, when the account took place, and they just present it like that. Even then, they're basically just taking the word of somebody else at that point. I mean, even if they are a authentic witness and activity actually happened, you know, people, you always hear about like 8 people witness a crime being committed and they saw it, but then the police walk away with 8 different descriptions of the perpetrator.
Yeah, it's a variation based on.
But if you hear that pattern, so the big thing is just to, I guess, just try to soak it all in and look for those patterns, man. I mean, don't dismiss anything immediately out of hand, but don't swallow any information blindly. Once you start seeing patterns emerge from different stories, then maybe you start to pay attention to those stories. Yeah. So
Jay Myers says, does cold, wet weather affect your searching?
We love cold, wet weather, but
yeah.
If it's too wet,
we have a lot of instrumentation.
Yeah, that so we've got some stuff that's fairly weatherproof, but it limits what we can do. Actually, the thermals work better when it's a little cold out because body heat against a colder
really pops.
So sometimes during the summertime, especially where we're at, the environment is almost as hot or sometimes hotter
Yeah.
than like body heat. So it's you can still detect it. It's just not as good.
Yeah, everything looks pretty much like the same temperature in the summer, especially like in the really, really hot parts of the summer.
Winter, we're fall through winter through early spring is like our most active time of the year.
But in terms of like wet weather is very difficult because we do have some equipment that is very, very expensive and that can be totally destroyed by, you know, it raining on it. Now we can go out with our GoPros as much as we want to, but you know, a lot of our instrumentation, especially like the thermal that he mentioned, if you get into a wet weather situation, you're playing with fire when it comes to our thermals.
Yeah.
So
Contagious Cajun, why do you think Dogman seems nearly bulletproof in some stories? I don't know. Why does it seem not bulletproof at all in others? Again, unless you're dealing with, if you're dealing with something that is pretty much spiritual or demonic or whatever, that may not be able to be affected by physical objects. And then you have others that are just maybe flesh and blood. Maybe they're not from here, but they're flesh and blood from somewhere else. And those are affected by gunfire. That's why I always tell people that you see patterns, but you don't see one overarching pattern. You see small subsets of patterns. And anybody who ever tells me they've got this figured out and they give me like 5 or 6 stories as to what this all is, I can find you 10 with hardly any little effort at all
that would contradict
that are going to contradict all of those.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, if you get to the point where you could go, they have it's one of a couple possibilities. They have a natural resistance. I mean, like rhino skin, basically, but like to the 10th degree, you know. We've talked about it before that most people, when they seem to shoot these things, let's say somebody shoots at one with like a handgun. Most people, when they're carrying for like personal defense, carry hollow points. They're not carrying like hard cast, you know, ammo with like, you know, like a 10 millimeter hard cast or something like that. They're carrying like a 9 millimeter or a 40 or a 38 or something like that, usually hollow point. The fact that you're dealing with something that's so outside your bounds of reality means maybe you're not hitting it like you think you are. So maybe there's some sort of natural, if there's a subset that's genetically engineered, maybe there's something going on, man. You see all sorts of stuff on like the cutting edge of technology right now, of them making new bullet resistant and almost bulletproof fibers, you know, based on spider silk, stuff like that. So it might be the weapons that are involved. It might be physical characteristics of the creatures. It might be the fact that people just aren't hitting them. It could be the fact that it's not completely physical in a lot of cases like that. It seems physical, but it's just not. But then there's other stories of people just plugging them, and I mean, of varying degrees of sensationalism involved with it. You know, people loading up with like Barrett 50 calibers and going out on a dogman hunt and stacking up bodies 6 feet high, or people like Joe from Michigan who just tries to get in his truck. He pulls out a pistol, shoots it in the eye, watches the back of its head blow out, and then he just, you know, he leaves. So I don't know. It doesn't make sense that some of them are almost invulnerable and then others are just as vulnerable as anything else out there.
So there's a story that was actually mentioned by Linda Godfrey about somebody who was involved in Project Stargate, which was the CIA's remote viewing experiments that they conducted. And according to this interview that she conducted with this person who claimed that they were a part of the Project Stargate, they said that she asked them about Dogman because they claimed to have remote viewed Dogman. And they claimed that they lived underground and they were waiting for someone to come back so that they could emerge, that there's sort of like an army of sorts. But aside from that, back to this, is they mentioned that their bodies are actually like a bio armor, and that explains why you can fire bullets at them and they seem to deflect off of them. But I thought that was an interesting aside that it was mentioned by that person that Linda interviewed, that it's some sort of bio armor that will deflect gunfire. So
Martin Groves says Monster Fest rocks. Will be in the house for that one.
Awesome.
Yeah, you will be in the house for that one, Martin Groves. I need to talk to you. So
Ernie Walden says 5-toed dog tracks are showing up here lately in the LBL, and canines don't have but 4.
Interesting. Ernie's in the LBL on a pretty regular basis and sees a lot of stuff out there.
The Contagious Cajun says, chased out by a storm on the LBL. Sounds like a 411 case.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that video, check it out. I mean, we're in there getting geared up for a night investigation, and our Garmin InReach Mini starts going off with messages from home of people going, hey, there's a tornado going through there. And that's all the information we have. And we're going tornado. There was supposed to be a weather system like 100 miles away, you know, and it just took a veer on us all of a sudden, and we just had crazy weather out there.
Yeah, like a day after that, there was an insane ice storm. So yeah, it was just one thing after another. We always have our missing 411 like check off list of stuff that we make sure that we use missing 411 as like a you know, like don't get missing 411. So we make sure we're always armed, always have a personal locator beacon, and we always watch out for weird weather changes. But yeah, that kind of makes you scared about that.
Todd Brown had said that coyotes, I'm pronouncing that correctly, it's correct, classical fawns and satyrs resemble the Goatman stories. Yeah, it is. It's like you see these parallels all the way back through recorded history of these creatures. Now, some of them are kind of novel. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that resembles the Jersey Devil like we talked about, but I'm sure if I went, because the world's got a lot of mythology and a lot of folklore, but that's a real definite. I mean, what else supposedly resembles that is the Christian interpretation of Satan, you know, ram horns or goat horns, you know, very like fawn looking, very fawn like. So
Cowboy Five Rings says, Jessi and Joe, I love the way you both communicate while you're out there, especially at night. The chemistry is awesome. I try to edit out where we just yell at each other.
Yeah, we do a lot of bickering out there, so that doesn't make its way to the final cut.
No, we do. We work very well together. We've, over the years, when we first started doing this, we did not communicate at all. We did actually bicker a lot. We did kind of, because you don't know, when you first start doing this, it's new, and you have to kind of feel it out, how you're going to approach it. And so that's what helps having a very consistent partner with what you do is you develop your own systems. We have kind of hand signals that we use, and we kind of go over stuff. And then after action reports every time on our way home, after we do a big expedition, we kind of go over everything, what worked, what didn't work, what we each need to improve. And we try to just improve how we approach it and how we go out there. And we just want to make sure that we're safe and that we gather as much evidence as possible.
Stephanie Light, hello. She goes, I love that you don't give up. You try new things. That's what truly matters. We know that something is out there. Yeah, I mean, I really like trying new things. And I really like, I mean, I'll be like kind of just brainstorming stuff sometimes. And somebody will be like, well, that's not going to work. And I'm like, how do you know? Well, that just, you know, they do this. That's not how dogmen act.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, well, I'm going to do it anyway, man. You know, I mean, we're going to, again, it's just like Sasquatch research, man. It's something we say on every one of these live streams. Enough. I mean, everybody's been out there banging on trees with sticks and howling at the moon for decades now at this point, and we haven't really gotten anywhere. So let's try some new stuff. Let's do something that might sound crazy, but maybe we'll get some like novel results out of it. Maybe we'll actually get some results out of it.
And that's also why we got the infrasound equipment to test for infrasound. We're doing baseline tests right now to try to get some readings and figure out, okay, if you're near a highway, this is kind of the infrasound you're going to get. When it's raining, there's thunderstorms, this is kind of the sound you're going to get. So we've been kind of taking that equipment with us to different places and testing out baselines. That way, when we do get some spikes in an area, we'll be like, okay, this makes sense. Cryptid Castleberry says, when you return to the LBL, do you think using a laser grid at night would be effective in trying to catch a sighting of the dark figure y'all had previously seen? I would worry that there'd be interference from the trees.
Yeah, I've never used one of those before because I'm not like don't have a ghost hunting background.
We probably have to ask
they're
the
not
Deuster.
that yeah, we'll check with our buddy the Deuster. Dewey that's on here is like the Q, the James Bond Q of the cryptid and paranormal world.
The Qster.
Yeah, the Qster. We'll try to get his input and see what he thinks about that. Footwear, clothing, equipment, what you two use, and Seth and his crew. We use a lot of just like basic like stuff that like any like outdoors person, you know, hunter, camper, hiker, anything like that would use. Waterproof boots. wear a lot of 511.
I wear a lot of 511.
511.
I wear a lot of 511 triple aught design
stuff. Just anything to try to stay warm, because you've got to, once you're out there, you don't want to go. Lots of crazy stuff is happening, but I'm freezing. I'm going into hypothermia, so I need to get out of there. So we try to do that. I can't speak for Seth and them, but I will tell you this, that Seth and them are out in the, and especially Alex Petikov and them are out in it. So
one of my favorite things about you and I, it was long before we ever met Alex. We were watching one of his videos, and he had a freaking, he had a revolver on his hip, and you're like, yes! It was like Leonardo DiCaprio in what was that? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
But
yes,
yeah, it's just because a lot of people are so resistant to like being, and I understand that when you go on like a paid BFRO outing, they don't want people armed, man. That's a lot of liability.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Yeah, that's a lot of liability. But a lot of people, it's just like they want to approach this and not be armed on it. And to me, and Jessi feels the same way, it's almost like you're basically saying, I don't really believe in any of this. I'm just kind of play acting at it. I don't care what your own personal beliefs on Sasquatch are. There's got to be a little room for doubt in there, man. Even if you think these things are like giant, gentle forest brothers, it's a lot of risk, man, that you're taking. And yeah, I understand. Well, the gun might not do you any good. Well, it's better than nothing, man. And I mean, even if you don't run in any sort of like cryptid activity, the woods can be a pretty sketchy place sometimes, man. There's regular natural threats out there. There's people out there that are sometimes up to no good. So,
we're super behind on the chat, by the way, guys. But so we're gonna answer
we're
stuff.
Super behind.
We're gonna answer some stuff from way back when. Kaiju Ninja in 1985 says, "Do you think they shut down because they were told to, or maybe the chips were successful?" Talking about the Sasquatch pheromone chips.
Sasquatch pheromone chips. Nope. I'll tell you why I think it is. It's nothing conspiracy minded at all. If you guys remember on Expedition Bigfoot, when they were in Kentucky, they were using Sasquatch pheromone chips. And then they found a dirt sample that they said had what looked like chimpanzee DNA in it. Well, it was near where they used the Sasquatch pheromone chip. Okay. The Sasquatch pheromone chips are made with human reproductive scents and then either some sort of great ape reproductive scent. They found chimpanzee DNA. So a few of the people that watched that, a lot of us went, is that possibly from the Sasquatch pheromone chip? So I know that they were, I can't say getting bombarded with calls, but I know that they had a lot of people hounding them, asking them, what do you use for your Sasquatch pheromone chips? Is this chimpanzee? Are you, there was a lot of, how crazy people get that are involved in this, you know what I'm saying? So when I saw a lot of people in a couple of different private groups that I'm in talking about just basically hounding the manufacturers of these Sasquatch pheromone chips, I went, man, they're just really raking these dudes over the coals, all these. And I went to go order some more, and the whole website's like gone. It's just gone. They've still got a Facebook page, but now I might be completely off base on that. They might have just gone, what are we doing? This is a weird product. We're not making any money doing this. But it seemed like it went hand in hand with everybody demanding to get to the bottom of it. Are you using chimpanzee? Is this what they found in Expedition Bigfoot? So it just seemed to go hand in hand. And when I say hand in hand, like within like a couple of days.
It's like the Karens of the Bigfoot world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they just went hardcore on it. So.
Central Florida Bigfoot, following up on the thermal discussion about using it in different temperatures. Thermal in Florida is suspect at face value. Yep. Trees hold heat, and cheap thermals just exhibit dancing pixels at that point. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. We had to go with
and that's something you have to keep in mind when you're using a thermal.
Well, we started off the FLIR Scout TK, and it worked really well at close ranges and cool weather. Well, not really well, pretty well. So we had to drop some coin into some thermals to be able to get useful footage like year round. If we had that supposed Dogman image that we found, whatever that is, that thing that looks like a upright canine with oversized pointy ears looking at us from that gully and the LBL, it was hot as heck out there. And if we'd had a FLIR Scout TK, it would have just been a blob. There would have been no definition to it at all. And even in that, there's it's somebody had actually, a guy I'm friends with on Facebook had contacted me asking about the FLIR One, that little thing that you hook into the bottom of your phone. And I'm like, I can't even say that's better than nothing, because you're going to run the risk of maybe you seeing something and it looks far better to your eye than the thermal image that you capture, and it's just going to basically be a blob squatch in thermal. But again, like I said, the less expensive ones with lesser resolution, they do work better in cold weather. So there is that. Stingray 75, have you met Roger, the alleged survivor from the LBL massacre? Nobody has met Roger. People have spoken to him. We're familiar with his story, but I don't think anybody, and I might be wrong on that, but as far as I know, no one has actually met him face to face that is involved in this.
Yeah.
At least anybody that we know. So
Sheila Ebeling, talking about the Dogman and his virtual bulletproofedness, even if they are flesh and blood, you don't understand their anatomy and physiology. Correct. You don't know how, you can assume how they would be constructed if it's a sort of a humanoid sort of thing, or like other animals would be, but you don't know for sure.
Those are assumptions that you would be making, because again, obviously this is a let's just call it a novel creature, unlike almost anything else on Earth, that might have canine characteristics, but we don't have a body. It's managed to show itself at times. Maybe they've got a body somewhere that's just not well known. Obviously, it's not a normal creature. So at that point, you can't really, same thing with Sasquatch. When people go, oh, it's just a monkey, it's just a big ape. Well, this ape has got a lot of stuff going for it that no other ape or no other creature's got going, these physical abilities, these physical characteristics like self-illuminating eyes and all of that. It don't sound like a monkey or an ape that I've ever heard about. And there's no parallel to it in the natural, kingdom at this point. Same thing with Dogman. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's one in a lab out there somewhere and they're studying it because its skin is so naturally bullet resistant and its bone is so dense without being too heavy to move.
That's going to be handy for the DOD. Friends.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's why you don't have one. Maybe that's why there's a cover up. Maybe it's something involved with, almost any idea is plausible when you get out into something that's this out there,
I'm going to go to the bottom of the chat if you want to slowly go through that.
That's fine.
We'll just rock back and forth, friend.
What the Flawcast? What do y'all think about Scott Carpenter? I love that guy, but I feel like everything is a Sasquatch or cryptid to him. He operates fairly near us. He's up in the Smokies and all that, which is not too, we don't really go up there too much just because a lot of the areas that you can access are just overran with people right now.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with everything that he has out. Some of the stuff he has out, and I'm not talking about the ones where you see something and then he mirror images it to get a full face. Some of the stuff that he's got out there is pretty compelling. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We met him in Tennessee, mm-hmm. and he was an extremely nice, extremely gracious person.
And he was one of the first people to do that backwards facing camera stuff,
yeah. So
it's people like that who come up with kind of these novel ideas and these different mm-hmm. ways of looking at things that really start to get us somewhere.
And I will say this though, that when your eyes are kind of opened and you realize that there's stuff out there, it's easy to fall into that thing of and maybe these things are maybe he's in a super active area. Maybe he attracts them in sometime. I can't speak to that, but I just know that a lot of times you have to make sure that your imagination doesn't run away from you, mm-hmm. Because it happens. You can say whatever you want, but we're out there like every week doing this stuff and we'll have to kind of stop and go, all right, that was just this, you know? You're out there specifically looking for this. It's human nature to start to interpret the stimuli that you get in that manner because that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, or get excited when something starts happening and you kind of lose yourself a little bit.
But people do get, I'm not saying that it's Scott Carpenter, but people do get that Bigfoot or Dogman fever where they're seeing one around every tree and everything. But like I said, he does have some stuff. I know that it's a super nice guy, I would say that some of I can't say I would agree with him 100% on everything, but I would say that I agree with some of the general gists of what he thinks. You know what I'm saying? So,
Cheese Whiz, the most intelligent of cheeses. Thank you for that. If Bigfoot had an OnlyFans, would you buy his feet pics? Not a feet person.
That quote was worth $1.99 to that man. So thank you, sir. So
hey, that's worth $1.99 to me.
Yep.
That'd be a no. I'm not a feet person. Thank you though. Central Florida Bigfoot says, you are a tight team. You know each other. You know how each other will respond. Makes it awesome to watch.
And if you guys haven't checked out Central Florida Bigfoot's channel, I'll actually steal a link real quick to
Yeah,
it.
steal a link. Throw that up in
he
there.
takes a real novel approach to this. He is a photojournalist. And one of the things I liked about him is he's like going, I'm not keeping notebooks with like dates and stuff like that in there. I'm not trying to build like a case. He's after photographic evidence. Okay. He's after photographic evidence.
He's a commercial photographer. So
he
is taking his expertise and applying it to the field.
And he approaches, like I said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, Matt, you just got the same camera that they used when they filmed the Patterson-Gimlin film. So you can kind of test that and all that, which is great. Again, that's somebody trying something as opposed to just talking about it online, you know. I'm going to put up a link to his channel here, but yeah, he is somebody that we enjoy his work. We enjoy following his stuff. I enjoy his thought process on it.
He also had a good insight here. Hit that thumbs up.
Yeah.
Make sure you hit like, guys. Make sure you hit like. That's good for us. I think we're out of the sin bin.
No, we're not. We're still in the sin bin.
We're still in the sin bin. Okay.
Yeah, we're still in the sin bin.
We're still bad. But make sure you hit like and try to save us from the sin bin. Let's see. Everybody is. I'm going through the chat right now, guys. Yep. We are behind here. You what?
I'm just not. I said, yeah, I'm going through
it. James Barker says 10 millimeter is good enough for grizzly. It's good enough for any day or for any of the other critters in the woods. If it's not, you might want to save a round for yourself. We both carry 10 millimeters. I know we talked about that ad nauseum, that we both carry Glock 10 millimeter handguns in our chest rigs. But yeah, if it can't get dropped by a 10 millimeter, at least a mag full of 10 mil.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best option we've got. And I mean, it might be just useless. You know what I'm saying? You know, we might run into something that it's completely useless on, but at least we took somewhat of an active step to try to make sure that we have at least a chance to get out of those woods alive if stuff goes wrong. So.
And earlier there was some discussion. Somebody mentioned something about putting holy water on our bullets.
Martin Groves gave us those bullets at Wild and Weird Con, gave us 10 millimeter rounds, and I don't know what all he did with them, but
they were
holy
blessed.
water, they were blessed by a priest, everything like that, man. So those are like we keep those with us. Those are like our break glass in case of emergency rounds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
I bless our weapons. I did a ritual to bless our weapons. We do carry black salt. We do carry holy water.
And that sounds crazy, but you start doing this for a while and it don't sound that crazy anymore.
Yeah, it don't sound that crazy after
it couldn't hurt. You know what I'm saying? So it couldn't hurt.
I mean, you have a lot of instances right now. I'm on a really bad alien kick. You have instances where even with that kind of thing, invoking the name of Jesus Christ will stop the incident. So there's something to that. Something's coming with that. We're working on a dark dive episode right now. Joe and I are on the heavy duty research phase of this dark dive episode, and it's putting us into a really
weird spot,
dark, demonic alien spot. So I even wore like an alien shirt today.
We've talked about it in the past, but as far as like the UAP UFO phenomenon, I'm not an extraterrestrial proponent. I think it's interdimensional or maybe even ultra terrestrial. But one of the things that really fascinates us is the diabolical hypothesis that there is some sort of negative spiritual like origins to what these people are experiencing and seeing in the skies.
So we're not gonna go too far into
We're not gonna go too far on that, but that's what's coming.
We are working on that right now. But yeah, I've got terrible aliens on the brain.
War Criminal 7 asked, have we ever seen a portal or suspected a portal? If so, what it looked like? When we were in a spot near this place we've been going to in North Georgia, I saw a light that kind of was fairly sizable that kind of irised out. It started to form like just basically irised out like a camera. And we went up to that, and that's where we found that weird glyph with that like handprint in it. And I don't know why, but my gut response was, because it looked pretty sizable, is that my gut response was that something came in or out of that. I can't prove that, and that my gut response might be completely wrong, but my gut was telling me that, and that's what I went with. We have seen when we were in Western North Carolina, up near we had a research area that was up near the Pisgah Bear Sanctuary up there.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we saw that thing that was making the raindrops. It's almost like somebody had spread saran wrap across the woods. And
I know this has been said to death. It's almost the predator
effect.
Yeah.
But it didn't really have an outline of a person, at least we could make out. But the raindrops were hitting it. The water coming off the trees was hitting it and like distorting up. So I don't know what that was.
That weirded you out.
Yeah, that weirded me really out.
Yeah.
Because we usually like rush this stuff, and I went towards it, but I had to kind of like think about it for a second. And then by the time I got up there, that effect was not there anymore. So I don't know if maybe our eyes were playing tricks on us.
It's a very, very weird place too. That's in the Pisgah National Forest.
Mm-hmm.
It's near where I'm actually from. My family's cemetery is up there. And that's a weird place. It's a very, very rugged place. And that particular area has an insane amount of white quartz and some of the biggest
Mm-hmm.
pieces of white quartz we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And they just stick out of the ground everywhere. So it's a very, very charged place.
Yeah, it's very, very bizarre.
Very bizarre. Very
and it's
charged.
right next to the bear sanctuary. So there's when we found those claw marks outside that abandoned tent in LBL, those aren't bear marks, man. We see bear marks galore up through there. We see how bears mark trees. We see bear scat up there. We have almost come up on them before. I'm sure we've walked past them up there and not even known they were there, but we've heard them. We heard like what we think was a mother bear with some cubs grunting at us as we were going down the trail. So we just
hightailed it out of there.
Hightailed it back. But yeah, like I said,
I'll take a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot or a Dogman, but not a mother bear.
Yeah.
Central Florida Bigfoot. I don't know why I can't talk tonight.
Yeah.
You know what? It's probably my tea. Central Florida Bigfoot says, yep, a Sena Kodak K100. Just trying to get a feel for how it all went down. Roger was a really lucky cowboy. So yeah, he is working with that camera and he's trying to recreate the scenario.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has done anything like this before.
I've heard people talk about it online and I've heard people discuss it because there's a lot of, when you get into the Patterson Gimlin film, man, like researchers turn into like a couple of old men on the front porch discussing like the 1952 World Series, batting out, what color of shirt were they wearing that day, what sort of film they had. And there's a lot of discussion, but enough discussion, man. It's been discussed to death. Get the camera and do what he's doing, So I'm really interested to see what's going to come out on that. So
Martin Groves, he followed up with that. I had my local priest bless those 10mm ammo. He blessed and prayed over them. Yeah, that's definitely our
man.
That's definitely our emergency stash. Central Florida Bigfoot says, "Oh crap! Anyone want to buy a 9mm? I guess I need a 10mm."
Yeah, I used to carry. I carried a 9mm with hard cast rounds, and then I carried a 45 for a while, and then when we went through a period where we were getting some pretty weird activity, and I went ahead and got a 10mm because I didn't feel comfortable going out without it anymore. And then we had after we got back from LBL that first time, got that thing on thermal. I bought a Mossberg Shockwave 12 gauge to take with us in my pack if we into certain areas. So
this pertains to our interests. William Kennedy says, besides hardcast, we both carry a pair of cold steel Rondell daggers that went out camping.
For those of you who don't know what a Rondell dagger, I didn't even know Cold Steel made a Rondell dagger. That is
we're big fans of like old school Cold Steel stuff.
Oh, yeah, they did. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah, Rondell dagger is something that was made for when armor reached a certain pinnacle, a lot of you'd had a hard time getting through it. So you had like a Rondell dagger. It's got it's like a circular plate on either side of the hand and then a triangular shaped blade. It's just for piercing. Yeah. And it's basically when you got an armored knight on his back to try to get through his armor, through his spots where he had chainmail covered it, or try to get through like seams in the plate and all that. But it's a stabbing weapon. That's pretty cool, man. I didn't even know they made those. So
Shelly Vidal says, "Hi everyone. I recently seen people, I can't remember their names, who do go above and beyond in their research. They come off as weirdos but intelligent.
They're called Hellbenders. It's
called Jessi and Joe.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That's us. Hey.
Cryptid response. What's up, buddy? So, see, this is a good one right here. Martin Groves, and I'm sure everybody at this point has heard Martin Groves' story. When I fired upon the Dogman, it was like it had zero effect. But my partner fired his 10 gauge, and they screamed and reacted. So, now Martin, and for the life of me, I can't remember, Martin, what caliber handgun you used, and I don't believe you said that you were using hardcast rounds. I can't remember. You could correct me. I think you were using a revolver. I want to say a 357 or a 44, so a pretty good size caliber round. I can't remember what sort of ammo you were using. And then his partner fired a 10 gauge, and I don't know if your partner was firing slugs or buckshot there. So if you're still in here, if you want to, that comment was from like a while ago. If you're still in here, if you want to drop it, I'd like to hear. So
Sam Burton says, I certainly think you are wise to keep the dark spiritual matter in mind when it comes to aliens. Oh, certainly. Certainly now, for sure. James Barker says, there needs to be a Hellbent Holler Dogman hunting kit, like those Victorian vampire hunters kits.
Hey man, we ever hit it big? You're in charge of merchandising, buddy.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, I didn't know you clicked on something.
Jonathan Garcia, you have to use incinerator rounds, catch them on fire. Yeah, somebody had actually, I've had a couple people suggest not the dragon's breath shot shells, but some other shot shell that shoots like phosphorus or something like that out of it. I don't know, man. That's just, I just don't know. I'm uncomfortable doing that for some reason. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, we're in pretty wet woods. I mean, we're in a deciduous rainforest, basically, but a temperate rainforest. But
I'm not driving you around with incinerator
rounds. Yeah, so
that is not happening. Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, have you ever heard of a report of Bigfoot fighting a Dogman? Who do you think would win?
I've heard stories online about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There might be an actual witness report out there where somebody goes, I went and spoke to John Smith in this place at this time. This is what he saw at when. I don't know of any.
We have heard a firsthand report from a gentleman in the chat who has seen them possibly working in tandem. Though.
Martin Groves' story, Barton Nunley's story to a certain extent. I think that there may occasionally be friction between these things, but I think at the end of the day, they are
two sides of the same coin.
Two sides of the same coin. Yeah, two sides of a many-sided coin.
So
Unknown had said, we just started training in a remote viewing course with Lynn Buchanan. He was in Stargate. Have you tried remote viewing to locate Dogman in your research area? We haven't. I don't really mess around with anything like that. I have a deep instinctual distrust of anything that reeks of psychic type stuff. And I know that remote viewing's different than that, but I'm always concerned about where that information is coming from. If I don't know the source of the information, I'm a little wary of it. Now, Jessica Jones does remote viewing and has had some interesting stuff come up and all that. But now we've never personally done anything like that. I've never had any training in that. Jesse's never had any training in that.
No.
I know they offer training courses. I don't know who does it or where. So who knows, man? Once you complete your course, maybe we'll get you to
shoot us some pointers.
Take a gander at our area and tell us what you come up with.
I just always imagine training for remote viewing. You're in the you're like in the basement of some CIA lab and you're sitting in a gray room and they're just holding up cards and like, what's on the card? It's a butterfly. No, it's a hot dog, So that's all I imagine. Deuster of Cryptids and Critters Paranormal says, how is Tom Thumb doing? He's doing great. He's on a kick right now where he likes to bring me squirrel tails. So
just the tails.
Just the tails.
And he's got a little not a little possum friend. He's got a giant possum friend that he's been hanging out with. They share food. Yeah. Share food. They sleep next to each other.
So he's got a possum buddy and he's been bringing me squirrel tails. So doing good. Doing well. Let's see. Judy Wheeler was talking about quartz. Yeah, quartz is beautiful and a wonderful, wonderful mineral. She's a lifetime rock hound, like myself. I'm a little magpie. Every time we get done doing we go out and do a field investigation, Joe's like, all right, empty your pocket. I have pockets full of like rocks and stuff. So every time we go somewhere, I'm picking up rocks. Coyotes.
I think I said I saw a moment ago that you have a background and this, but you are right. Mesopotamian mythology and the evolving sun worshippers, Druidism, paganism, etc., all describe creatures similar to the natives in America. Yeah, that's the thing, is that there are obviously like a lot of those like one-offs, and I'm sure you're very familiar with them, that you kind of see sometimes in a culture that you don't really see an equivalent anywhere else. But a lot of times it's variations on a theme. You can find something that is almost a direct parallel from culture to culture. The shape-shifting thing, people will go, oh, a skinwalker, and then some people will get bent out of shape going, well, it didn't happen in traditional Navajo lands. That's a term that people are familiar with now. And there's other creatures and entities all across the world that exhibit similar things to that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to a certain extent, even the Cherokee, like raven walkers, have some shape-shifting abilities, that the ability to go unseen, they're almost like a witch subset. And you're exactly right. There's a lot of commonalities, and you could go, well, it's that human archetype. People are doing this because it's just common human experiences have just, no matter where you're at in the world and what color you are and what language you speak, everybody has that human condition that leads you to believe these certain archetypes. Or maybe people are just seeing the same thing all over the world, or slight variations of the same thing.
It's like all of these pyramids from different eras all over the world, people that never traveled from these places.
Hold on. MK Ultra said he had an encounter with a light orb in the Uaris a few weekends back. I thought it was a lost hiker and walked up to it within 15 feet. I would love to hear what we don't really spend a lot of time in the Uwari, even though it's fairly close to us, just because it seems like for the longest time it was just
the hot thing for everybody that wanted to do Bigfoot research was like going to the Uaris,
arguing over spots. This is my spot,
Yeah, it's like a Bigfoot gold rush,
and I mean they're up there howling and banging on sticks,
but they're howling at each other.
Yeah, they're howling at each other, man. Somebody ate the candy bar I left on the stump. Yeah, it was probably gone 5 minutes after you left.
It was Bill.
Yeah, it was Bill from the next holler over got it. But I don't know if that's like calmed down or not. But we're hearing some pretty cool stuff about the Uaris nowadays.
The petroglyphs thing.
Yeah, there's some petroglyphs that are supposedly up there, and one of which has what looks like a dog-headed man to it.
Mm-hmm.
We're hearing some pretty cool stuff about the Uaris. We're thinking about maybe trying to head up there during a non-peak time and see what's going on. So.
What the Flock says, you guys are definitely in the sin bin. I haven't gotten a single notification on your channel in weeks. I have to actually search for your stuff now. I'm definitely subscribed with all the notifications.
We had a giant drop in subscribers like almost immediately. And maybe we just ticked a bunch of people off. I don't know. I don't think what we said was too spicy.
No, we went to the sin bin.
We were having really steady growth every day. Whether we released anything or not, we had steady growth. We don't grow anymore, and we usually lose anywhere from 1 to 2 subscribers a day.
Yeah,
our views drop down to next to nothing. I guess it's just gonna take time to get off the naughty list with like YouTube. So.
I'm gonna try to get that like follow-up video done that we went to the area where we got that audio. I'll put that out and we'll see how it does. But yeah, we're definitely gonna have a dark dive coming up. We've been working on that, and then I'll try to get that video out.
And I know people say this till they're blue in the face. Share the channel, do that. But if you do enjoy what we do, try to share it maybe, because it's the only way the channel's going to grow.
Apparently that's the only way anybody's going to see it.
I mean, we're out of the YouTube algorithm right now. And again, I know that's something else that a lot of people say, but it does sound like they're coming after a lot of cryptid channels pretty hard. And when I say coming after, it's not like they're dudes in like, black masks showing up in the middle of the night, kicking your door down, but they're definitely not pushing a lot of the stuff. The only people that really seem to get a lot of things are the storytellers, and even they sometimes kind of stray a little too far from what I understand. Like true crime shows get like really like
which is crazy because true crime is such a huge genre.
But apparently a lot of true crime channels get like demonetized. They get their stuff flagged. They and so we are on the crap list with YouTube right now, just for a couple of ill-spoken words that I said. So
I was cutting his hair earlier, and I mentioned something because we're doing all this research. He goes, "Well, don't talk about that in the podcast." I was like, "Excuse me, you're the one."
Yeah, no,
triggered.
I messed up. So
you're the one who triggered all of this. I know what not to say.
I'm going to read this part of this comment, but I'm not going to put it up. What the Flock asks, don't judge me for this. Females seem to bring these things out of the woods, but what about during her time of the month? Have you heard or seen an increase during that time of the month? We have not. I'm aware of that trope.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of the one guy who went diving for products in women's restrooms to use. There is some, and again, I can't say whether females draw them out more. I've said before, I don't have anything happen when I'm out solo.
I'm honestly going to tell you, I am so surprised with the fact that, you know how like some people who do these channels and do this stuff and they're like insane, like clout chasers where they're like trying to do the craziest thing possible. Oh,
why that's not done.
This is coming. I'm telling you guys right now, mark my words, 9:20 p.m., 11/28/2022. It's coming. Somebody, one of these people, these YouTube people that do Bigfoot or whatever,
is going to take a menstruating female.
They're going to take a menstruating female into the woods, and they're going to
stake her out like a goat in Jurassic Park.
No, they might do it. I don't know, but they're going to do that, and they're going to make a big deal out of it. They'll be like, "Nobody's done this. We're so hardcore," but they are going to do it. I thought about that before, and I was like, "Somebody's going to do that." It's very tasteless.
So yeah,
somebody's going to do it.
So I can't speak to all because I mean. Jessi does. I do experience more stuff when I'm out with Jessi as opposed to going out solo. I'll have weird stuff happen around the house and the property when I'm here solo. But if I go into like an area where we've had a pretty good string of activity, and if I go there alone, nothing happens. I mean, nothing literally happens. And I go there with her and stuff happens. Now, is that by virtue that she's a female? Possibly. I don't know. I have a sample size of one here to go on, but there does, but I have heard that. So, you know, I occasionally watch like other live streams, you know what I'm saying? And I watch the chat, you know, everybody's telling each other hi, you know, talking about their day. You know,
we're on the
commenting,
edge.
But we got a cutting edge live stream, man. We have a cutting edge live stream.
Hey, like last week was the Dogman nipple debate.
Yeah, every week I am amazed and horrified by you people. Every week I hear something cool that I go, because I spend a lot of time thinking about this. She spends a lot of time thinking about this. And I'll hear just something, I'll go, man, I've never thought about that before. That's just flat out brilliant. And then I hear stuff like James Barker. So
this is why YouTube comes after you.
Yeah, probably so.
Hey, we're asking the hard questions.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. KO says, I've heard a lot of things during my wife's time of the month, usually insults.
Hey-o. Vicky Sock says Alaskan Bigfoots. They were talking about Portlock likes to eat people. My son lives up there and everyone believes that to be true. Yeah, if you it's almost taken, you know, Alaska, like everywhere else. Not everybody in Alaska is like this hardened outdoorsman, you know, wearing like a, you know, bearskin coat. And, you know, there's people that live in the cities that never get out of the cities, never do anything else. And I'm sure they have a very cosmopolitan view about this stuff. But people that live in more rural areas, it's just like a matter of fact. I mean, it's like that through here. I mean, you get into like, you know, different areas of the mountains, and especially like the older folks, it's taken just as a matter of fact, you know, but it is true. The ones in Alaska tend to be very violent. It's like the ones in the South tend to be more aggressive, but there's a lot of stuff with around Portlock, man. There's a lot of weird stories that are around there. So
well, you got to think of that's a very harsh environment. And if you have something like a human that is just a delicious little soft meat sack that's easy to capture and kill, you know, you would eat it too, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, the availability of food, but
Stephen Tichenell, did you hear about the supposed bear on two legs that was hit by a car in California recently? I have not honestly heard anything about that at all. California bear hit by a car.
You are going to have 1,000 stories about bears getting hit by cars.
Yeah, but I'm looking for...
Okay.
Hit a bear, damage, reportedly killing the bear. Did they recover the bear? I don't know. There's obviously more to this story. If you have anything to share for it,
Where is the bear?
shoot us an email.
Kaios says cryptids are the poltergeists of the forest. So this is something, the wildergeists.
Yeah,
it's something we've talked about before. That you think about what would be considered a Class B Sasquatch sighting. So it's where you don't lay eyes on the creature yourself,
but you hear something.
You hear something.
You smell something. Something gets thrown at you.
Yes. Who's to say this is not a Sasquatch at all? This is what Timothy Renner refers to as a wildergeist,
as opposed to a poltergeist.
As opposed to
if you were in a home and something was thrown at you, or you smelled odd smells or heard weird noises, you would consider that a haunting.
Yeah.
But because it happens in the woods, everybody's so culturally predisposed to thinking Sasquatch now.
Yeah.
The Sasquatch threw a rock at me. No, a rock got thrown at you. You don't know what threw the rock at you.
I mean, these woods could be just
woods
haunted,
could be haunted,
you
man.
know?
So
and sometimes you think about it too. I kind of think about this as like, maybe it's not the spirit of a person or something like that, but you could have like an interaction with maybe like an elemental or something older, that maybe dwells within the forest. I've had that thought a lot when we're out and about in the forest, really deep in the forest, and it just seems like something is weird. You almost have an Oz effect kind of situation going on, and maybe something will happen or you'll hear something. To me, it doesn't seem like the physical reaction we have and the feeling we have doesn't seem like we're interacting with something that is a large land mammal. It seems like we're interacting, or something's interacting with us that's beyond that. And whether it could be a Sasquatch that is beyond that, or it could be some sort of elemental or spiritual being. And that's my 2 cents.
Talking about Bigfoot, if it has eye shine, that it's not a primate. That's true. Again, that's one of the things where people, they pick and choose, they cherry pick established biological science to try to explain away some of the weirder stuff. Well, I saw this thing and its eyes were glowing. Well, your flashlight picked it up. I didn't have a flashlight. Bioluminescence. There's some mammals that might glow under UV light, but they don't actually have bioluminescence. That's usually the province of a fish or an insect. Even if they did, we talk about this every week. Your eyes have photoreceptors that capture light in order for you to be able to see. So the sensory organ that captures light also emits light. That doesn't seem, what sort of evolutionary,
tomfoolery.
Yeah, exactly. What's going on with that? It doesn't make sense. Somebody took a report about a Sasquatch with glowing eyes and then saw somewhere that there are other animals and then, fish, insects, whatever. There are other creatures on Earth that have bioluminescence, and they went, that's what it is, and never thought it through.
Yeah.
So you're trying to explain it away with science, but you're using really bad science, so.
Dead and Yard Haunt.
Dogman. The Dogman brawl rears its head.
The Dogman brawl.
Well, not its head, but yeah.
Oh, God.
Kaiju Ninja.
Goodness gracious.
Wouldn't that be Only Feet instead of OnlyFans?
Good evening,
I like how
Barton
the jokes,
Nunley.
where you think they've died, and then nope, they pop back up.
Hello, Barton Nunley.
Hey, Barton Nunley. Letitia was in a few minutes ago,
hello,
too.
Letitia.
Tales from the Narc Side. Hello. Scott Carpenter had great footage of a white Sasquatch, and that was the one that I was thinking about. The one that he got on his rear-facing camera that kind of pops its head up and seems to move independently of everything else around him. It looks like a white Sasquatch peeking up over the edge of the like a little hill at him. So,
Helen Lassiter, have y'all heard of any sighting of Bigfoot or Dogman in Gaffney area of South Carolina? No, I have not heard about that. Was that recent, Alan? Was he going after the giant peach?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything about that.
Let us know, like, when did that happen? Maybe a couple more details. We'll see if we can look some of that up. That's within a range of us.
Hey, something I did want to get people's opinions on. So everybody remembers, I don't even know how long ago it was. How long ago was that Amarillo Zoo footage that came out of what looks like a dog-headed
Probably like
creature?
a month or two ago.
Oh, it's way longer than that. I think it's like 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay.
So, there was a story making the rounds on the internet today that supposedly a zookeeper from that Amarillo Zoo, a zookeeper from the Amarillo Zoo, sorry, as Jessi fights her way out here, had put up like basically an anonymous comment about that photo, that he had said that he was working there. They started having animals show up dead. I think it started off with like parrots or something like that. I just kind of briefly glanced over it earlier today, but they were finding animals dead. So they knew something was going on. It's a small zoo. It doesn't get a lot of business. So obviously every animal that gets killed or dies of natural causes or whatever, it's got to be replaced. It's expensive. But he basically said that they were all on the lookout because then they started to figure out that these things weren't dying of natural causes. They thought somebody was coming in and killing these animals. So I'm going to pull the story up here real quick. So they saw the thing that you saw the image of, that was a still of the video. And he said it was moving in this very like jerky manner, that it would like move very quickly in a jerky manner and then just freeze completely motionless and then start to move again. They called 911. The cops came up. Apparently the cops screamed for it to stop. It was making a weird rattling noise. And he doesn't really expand upon that at all, but just says it was making a rattling noise. And that's what caught my attention on it. Because if you guys remember that audio we caught, that repetitive kind of like, that could almost be considered like a loud rattling noise because it was really, really fast. It was really rapid. But apparently they shot at this thing and it let out a crazy scream and then jumped over the fence. So I've got some questions about it. I'm just kind of curious as to whether anybody saw anything about that. Anybody has any additional information, what people's thoughts are on it. I'm a little conflicted about whether or not I think it's a real possibility that this person is really employed by the zoo, but just curious. So if anybody's got any insight on that or just even an opinion, I would like to hear it. So catching up here.
I'm back.
Okay.
Nobody worry.
I'm way behind. I'm just catching up with the Rondell daggers at this point. I
think the Rondells were
Kaiju Ninja had said something about a part of a conversation about presidents knowing the truth. And yeah, we're not going to get political, but I do they? Because it sounds like if you look at the parallels between like the UFO phenomenon, that a lot of the people who are elected to office are not read into this because they're transitory. They're going to leave office eventually.
They could easily declassify at will, you know.
That it was just basically career military, some career, like, you know, like unelected officials, and then people in the defense industry, you know, private businesses had that. So I don't know whether or not the president would be read into it.
I know that when, you know, for example, you know, you got something like Operation Paperclip. When they brought over the Nazi scientists after World War II, that was a very covert operation.
Mhm.
A lot of their records were sanitized because they were obviously members of the Nazi party and they brought them over, but they wanted to get their knowledge. They didn't want their knowledge falling in the hands of the Soviet Union.
Well, von Braun was like picking out the slaves to dig the tunnels for the rocket stuff, and then a couple years later, he's on Disney movies.
Now the president did not want these people brought over here. He was very explicit about that. So the DOD, higher up in the DOD, they basically just subverted that kind of the president's wishes and brought them in anyway because they didn't want them falling into Soviet hands. And they wanted their knowledge of rocketry and brought them in. So, you know, I think that there are people who are career members of the DOD and a lot of other sectors of the government who have been there forever, will always be there until they finally retire. and they make the decisions, you know, and it does, a lot of it doesn't go to the president. Most of it doesn't go to the president because they, again, like you said, it's transitory.
Yeah. Sasquatch Wizard Adirondacks. This is a while ago. What's important about quartz? I found a single area where boulders ranging from 1 foot to 3 foot solid quartz are spread across a 40-foot square area with no others near the area. Quartz has got a lot of weird properties. It's very heat resistant, but that has these weird electrical properties as well. It's often, we have found quartz deposits in some of the stranger areas we've gone to. It has an association with it, whether, of course, nothing's been proven in this, but there seems to be some sort of parallel to it. The area in Western North Carolina that we're talking about right now that has the quartz, the activity seems to be centered around these quartz boulders that are kind of coming out of the ground. Boulders is the right word for it, but the further you get away from that, the less likely we are to experience anything, and the closer we get to it, the more likely we are to experience it. We found that white quartz that was stacked around that tree that was gone the following week when we had that weird audio and all that. So how it's associated, I don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Maybe it's something to do with the strange properties that it has, but maybe there is no, maybe it's just a coincidence that it happens to be there in some of these areas, but there does seem to be some sort of association with quartz with some of this weird phenomena that we're experiencing. So
you read an article about the thing while I was gone.
Yeah. Just that I'm just kind of curious because the thing that caught my attention about
what the vlog said, well, I'm gonna have nightmares tonight now, Joe. Thanks.
Well, it seemed when they caught it on camera, it made a weird rattling noise. And that reminded me of that repetitive, quick knocking noise we heard. That could almost be considered a rattle. They said it moved in a real herky jerky kind of movement, and then it would just freeze, and it let out a weird scream. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you my issues with it is that it's obviously anytime somebody comes forward with an anonymous information like that, I understand why they would want to stay anonymous, but the fact that they're anonymous, you have to kind of realize that there's some room for some tomfoolery there, some chicanery, that maybe it's not true. The other thing was that if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong, but I remember when the first photo came out that the imprint, the text along the bottom of the photo showed that it had been taken with a game camera. Not the surveillance equipment or the security cameras of the zoo. I'm sure the zoo has regular, like wired in or maybe wireless, but security cameras, dedicated security cameras. Whether there's a guy in a room watching a bunch of screens or whether it's all just recorded or whatnot, but I'm sure they've got a security camera system there. And I was thinking, why would they use game cams to kind of fill in the holes there?
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple things that came to mind is that maybe there had been ongoing activity there that they were trying to figure out. So maybe they got some game cams, some wireless cell game cams to kind of supplement their normal setup. So that's a possibility. It's just the way that the guy described it in the story, that they were sitting around watching the cameras, made it seem like they were watching security cameras, not game cameras. And this was shot on a game camera. So that was one of the things that just kind of like, kind of piqued my interest about it. And I was just kind of curious about what anybody else thought about it. So I'm not saying that I disbelieve it, but that was just something that kind of stuck out to me. So
going back to the subject of the president and disclosure to the president's cabinet and everything. Some say, what the flock says, some say JFK was killed because he was about to go public about UFOs, and follows up with saying that would be a pretty good argument to keep your mouth shut about what you know if you're president.
So.
Yeah, that pretty much, I believe that day in Dallas pretty much solidified that if you know too much, doesn't matter who you are, you should probably keep your mouth shut. So. I know we're having radio silence right now. We're both kind of going through the chat. Yo, Katie's here. Hello, Katie.
Goatman. Yeah, Goatman. Somebody had mentioned that earlier, and I might be late to that, but they there's definitely a parallel between like other entities that were reported, satires like fawns, stuff like that. The Christian depiction of the devil, Satan, the goat legs, the horns, and everything like that. it seems, at face value, it seems more unbelievable than a giant primate like creature, or even like an upright wolf type creature, you know, this like kind of like hybrid type animal. But it's been seen before. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've never had any experiences like that. So
South Forest 10 says connection between Fort Campbell and the LBL. Fort Campbell is south of the LBL. It's in Tennessee, Clarksville, Tennessee. There's been suggestions that the Dogman in the LBL is actually a escaped experiment that was created at Fort Campbell that's been suggested before.
Or that Fort Campbell was put in that spot specifically to help manage the population. There's been stuff that
that's a lot of infrastructure to manage a population of
I'm not saying I believe
Dogman.
it. I'm just saying that's been suggested to us
At
before.
that point, you would just wipe them all out.
That Fort Campbell helps manage the population there, that they help they can't eliminate it, but they try to keep it at a manageable level for whatever reason. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on with that. But you know what? I think you have that with almost every military base. It's near like an area of like high strangeness like that. So
yeah. Paramedic says, I've heard what sounded like a metal feed bucket being shook in the middle of the woods. It wasn't deer hunter baiting. I was close in the brush.
It's those reoccurring
metal clanging
noises that seem to come out that are generally associated with activity. You know what I'm saying? So,
and we've talked about this before. The hunter that went missing in the Missing 401, the Hunted film, there was a sound that sounded like a metal trap shutting. Martin Groves heard a metallic sound.
Yeah, a couple of sounds.
And this kind of alludes to the possibility that could we have some sort of what would be considered alien or extraterrestrial or interdimensional being interfering with this? Is there some sort of technology there that involves like metal being introduced into the equation?
Or is it just the after effect of, I don't know. We had a lady who had contacted us in North Carolina that had a dogman around her home, she thought, that was acting aggressively. And I guess my point with this is that I think that these metallic sounds they occur more frequently than people realize. It's just that they're often overlooked unless the person taking the account is exceptionally thorough. But she had said that she thought that the thing had gotten inside of her house because when she was outside, she had seen something. She ran outside. She hears a clang. She thought it had gotten in her. She has those like cellar doors that kind of open up going into there. She thought that it had gotten into her basement, or like she had like a separated basement or whatever, because she heard those doors. What she thought was the doors clang, and then she went there and the doors were locked. And she's like, "Well, how can I get through my locked doors?" And I'm going, "I don't think it got through your locked doors. I don't think what you heard was your doors at this point." But if you look around, you'll see people talking about like, you know, these weird metallic sounds that are heard occasionally and nobody knows what they are. Everybody has a different idea that that's an underground tunnel. And that's the door, the hidden door, like opening and shutting to come out. It's a portal opening and shutting. It's these things drawing in energy to do something. I don't know, but it's pretty prevalent. And I think it's been overlooked, and it's only recently people are starting to pay attention to that. So
Ted and Yard Haunt says Nixon supposedly took Jackie Gleason to Homestead AFB and showed him an alien body. My question is, how drunk were they when this occurred? I mean, I believe that it definitely could have occurred, but it was a different time.
Clan SCC. Did you guys hear about the Cryptid Brothers interview of the Oklahoma cousins that were attacked by the Bigfoot? I vaguely remember that. I think they were were they fishing or on a boat or something like that? I'll have to go back and review that story because, yeah, I vaguely remember that, though.
Red Wolf says, good catch on the game camera versus surveillance cameras.
Yeah, it's something that jumped out at me. And now that game camera does have wireless capabilities. And I guess it's not beyond, I don't know what the connection properties are for that. I mean, I know people run multiple game cams and stuff like that, but to me, if you're trying to monitor in real time, monitor the security situation of a pretty large complex like a zoo, Obviously, you're not just going to rely upon wireless cell like game cams to do that. You're going to probably have a built-in security system. Now, they might have used these again to supplement it. I don't know, but I'll pull up the part of the story because I had it here. I
wanted to clarify that what the Flux said. The nightmare was that this was killing parrots.
That was the first thing that I believe they killed it.
That horrified him because he is a parrot man. He is a man of the parrot.
I was watching the cameras with a security guard. So I don't know, but it just seemed odd to me that what we were seeing was not security camera footage. We were seeing something on a game cam. So I don't know. It just something about that strikes me as odd. And I'm not saying that means that it's fake, because if I remember correctly, you see the perimeter. Well, you see a fence in it. I don't know if it's the perimeter fence or not, but it just seemed odd to me. And what's weird is that nowadays a lot of the photos you see, that's edited out. They don't have that camera data along the bottom of it. So that may be nothing. Maybe I'm like reading too much into it, but I just thought it was odd. So
apparently President Ike made a deal for alien technology.
Made it where they could take a small percentage of, they could abduct people, but they had to keep it below a certain number. And in exchange, we got technology. However, supposedly they delivered far less technology than they were supposed to. And they took a lot more people than they were originally supposed to. But what are you going to do?
They reneged on the deal. Stephanie Light says, the question I'm sure that you may have been asked, but what are your thoughts on UAP as interdimensional or literally coming from another planet? I think it's interdimensional. I don't think that we have something coming from another planet at this point. I just don't. I don't think that's feasible. The distances are just too insane.
I don't think you have little green men getting on their version of like a rocket ship, taking off from their planet, leaving their gravity, traveling through space, entering our atmosphere, landing, getting out, and doing whatever they're doing.
No.
And you know what? I'm willing to bet that the powers that be don't think that either. Because if you think that these are mechanical, and there might be some physical craft to this. I'm sure that there's physical craft to this, but I think those physical craft are coming from somewhere else. They're not flying through space and then landing here. And if the government thought they were, they would not have Jacques Vallée so pivotally involved with a lot of this, because he's pretty much the king of like interdimensional theory at this point. You don't really hear that. I mean, whatever's going on, this is either something that's been here with us on this planet as long as we've been around, or it's coming from somewhere else. And the best thing that you can say is it's coming from another dimension, another reality at that point. And it just does not, so much of this stuff, again, you're trying to put a human understanding on something that's alien in every sense of the word. But,
human understandings, motivations.
Yeah. And that's not the way to approach
processes.
It. But at the same token, none of this makes me think that it's spaceships coming from outer space. It's not extraterrestrial. It might come from another planet, but it's another planet and another reality. So I'm thinking so.
Nixon was notoriously trustworthy.
He was a trustworthy man. So
Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, I've been finding a lot of Mylar balloons while researching. Have you found any in your areas? And do you think there's a cryptid connection?
We find them in areas of activity all the time.
Yeah.
So much so that it doesn't even raise an eyebrow nowadays. And I know that the balloons are filled with helium and they go up and they got to come down somewhere. But it seems like we don't find them in areas that aren't active. It's bizarre, but it's just, and we're not the only ones that have had that experience.
Yeah,
either,
that was in Hellier. They found
that was in Hellier.
Yeah, they found a blue star balloon. We found balloons in LBL.
Yeah.
Multiple times when we were out there, and they're just down in the woods. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they do have to come down at some point, so it just might be that maybe they get picked up elsewhere. I don't know. Okay. Otherworld Strange Stories, $5. Thank you very much. Ever heard an animal call or howl that you thought was a possible Dogman or maybe Sasquatch, but turned out to be a known animal?
We get Barred owls all the time.
We get startled by barred owls.
Because at first they don't sound like, and then after you hear it for a couple of seconds, yes.
Yeah.
That turned out to be a known animal. Yeah, mostly barred owls because we mostly operate at night like that. Animals make like weird noises, man, like foxes like screaming and stuff like that.
When we get any kind of audio, we like to really, really dive in and compare animal sounds. We're like, okay, could it be this? Could it be that? When we got that audio on our last field expedition video that we put out, we cannot find what that could have been.
Yeah,
naturally.
but I mean, we've heard like bears pop their jaws and stuff like that. So, and you get startled. I mean, it's nighttime. You're out there. Your mindset is that we're out there looking for we're looking for Sasquatch or Dogman mostly, or other weird stuff. So when you hear stuff, your mind's already geared towards that. But you take a second and reset and go, no, it's just those pesky owls again.
Yeah. But what did you laugh about a few minutes ago?
A lot of ex-wife, angry wife stuff. If I get something thrown at me in my house, it's an angry wife. I've experienced strange smells in my old home and had things thrown at me, but it was just my ex-wife.
And these are all different people.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Oh.
Kaiju Ninja.
Sorry, go ahead.
Look up Bigfoot killed in car crash being covered up by police. The conspiracy theorist claims. Okay.
You find that?
Yeah, I'll look at that. So.
What the Flock says, I like the theory that UAPs are us humans in the future that figured out time travel and they're visiting us in the now. Yeah. That's an interesting theory. But I guess what would the motivations be to come back and stop us from doing something that has ruined something in their future time? Yeah, sightseeing, I guess. Or maybe there's a problem with the genetics at that point. So they're having to come back and maybe gather up genetic material from certain people. And that's part of the abduction phenomenon.
Well, you remember one of our favorite Art Bell things, Single 7, the paleo ag tech from the future.
Yeah.
He was back. The Art Bell caller said that Art Bell had an open lines for time travelers. And this guy called back and he said that he went by Single 7. He said that was his rank, not his name. And that he was from the future and that people from the future were coming back. And that's what we were seeing as a lot of UFOs.
Yeah.
They were coming back under various time frames because in the future, we're at war with the NIM, which are alien grays.
And the Earth is insanely hot.
Because we're heating it up. Because the NIM need colder environments to live. So they were going back in the past and slowly, gradually heating the Earth up. And that he needed to come back and get seeds that were more heat resistant because the genetically modified seeds that they had in the future were too delicate. But he said that a lot of the UFO sightings people were seeing were these time traveling craft.
And that there's groups here trying to do little things to heat the Earth up incrementally as it goes along.
Well, they were doing it by venting volcanic, basically underwater volcanoes to heat the oceans up to try to eat the planet up slowly, a little bit at a time. So,
David Hunt, what if the UFOs? What about UFOs coming from inner Earth? So we're looking at hollow Earth theory of the UFOs. There was why does this always go back to Nazis?
I
don't know. There was a theory that people have posed that there's like a hollow Earth and there's like a race of humanoids that live in the hollow Earth, and that the Nazi scientists went to Antarctica and that's where they went into the opening to the entrance of the hollow Earth. They went in there and they joined up with that race of people there, and now the UAPs that you see coming out of the ocean that are piloted, and they will some people have reported that they see the pilot in these things and they describe them as like an Aryan type person. But that is the progeny of this society and these Nazi scientists. And then this is like this is hollow Earth humanoid Nazi scientists hybrid technology.
Well, almost every culture has got stories of entities that come from below. And a lot of them, these entities teach early man stuff, or they're capable of doing things that man can't do. A lot of like, especially in the Southwest, like a lot of American Indian, like Native American cultures talk about how, you know, these creatures come from underneath. I think like the ant men is what they're, the ant people that they're called, that basically assist the tribes in like their early development and all that. Let's just be honest. If these things are here and they're not interdimensional, they've almost got to be subterranean.
Right.
And that goes for almost everything here. Sasquatch, Dogman. I mean, everybody knows how the missing 411 clusters match up with the American cave system. And I heard a interesting statistic, and I don't even know if it was a statistic or just the guy making stuff up. But the guy said that less than 1% of the world's caves had been discovered, and less than 1% of that percent had been mapped. I've not even cared enough to look it up to see if that's real or not. But
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's a lot more underground stuff going on than what we're aware of. Bart Nunley, if he's still in the chat, I've heard him mention before that if the ground was transparent, you would just be horrified by what you see beneath you. So
Matt Keenan says, Joe, I think last week you mentioned that Bigfoot got more sightings from crossing roads than in the woods. Weird how Bigfoot can evade people effortlessly in the forest, but not while crossing a road.
I don't know if statistically there's more, but there's a ton of them. Now, obviously, to have a Bigfoot sighting, everybody has, more than one person has said this, but you need a Bigfoot, you need somebody to have that sighting, and then you need somebody to report that sighting too. So obviously, there's a lot of people traveling in cars, so more so than are probably traipsing through the woods on foot. So I guess statistically, there's the people end is heavier on that end. But that's what's weird to me, is that when you hear these stories and people just expound upon like the physical and mental and just extrasensory like abilities of these creatures, you'll never catch them. They're like woods ninjas, and they're capable of feats that no other creature on earth is capable of doing. They couldn't have crossed the road like 2 seconds before you came around that bend, so you never saw it. Why are they so elusive and you'll never catch them and you'll never do this, but they get seen crossing the road? And on the flip side, why is not any one of them ever like misstep, trip on something, stub his toe, and get hit by a car and the body's collected? Or is that happening and we're not hearing about it? That's what I'm saying, is that when you get down to this, if you leave your biases at the door and you just don't start cherry picking stuff to suit the theory that you came already built up with, you know what I'm saying? You came with this theory and now you're looking to support it, and you're only choosing those cases that support that theory. None of this makes sense. You know what I'm saying? None of this makes sense. And it's never made sense. I mean, you get that trickster element. I think Valet and John Keel have both said the same thing. It's almost like the phenomena as a whole, all of this stuff, Bigfoot, Dogman, UFOs, ghosts, everything like that. It's like it armors itself in absurdity. It's got a built-in crazy level that doesn't follow anything logically, just so it doesn't make sense, and it keeps us on our toes. So,
well, it keeps us on our toes, and then when you talk about it,
people think you're crazy.
Sound ridiculous.
People think you're crazy. So
Stephanie Light was asking, you mentioned Single 7. Is that from a movie, show, or a podcast?
That's from an Art Bell episode where he has a
Open Lines Time Travelers.
Open Lines Time Traveler. Just if you type in Art Bell Single 7, and it is a story, man.
It's a really good listen.
It is a great, yeah, you can find it pretty easily. So
Cryptid Castleberry was asking, have y'all heard anything about juvenile bison mysteriously going missing in the LBL?
I have heard, yes, we've heard about that.
I have heard, yes.
Yes. I have heard that there have been, from what I've heard, there haven't been any found dead. They're just going missing. There might be more to that story that I'm not aware of, but I've heard that, that they have gone missing and that they could not find anything as far as like a damage to the enclosure. So
I'm trying to keep up with the chat. Like I'm trying to keep up with the bottom here. Subterranean and humanoids. That's what Barton says.
Kaiju Ninja, and I'm assuming you're still talking about the Amarillo thing. Turned out to be it doesn't look like a small animal. If anything, it looks like a dude wearing some sort of headdress, but the arms look a little odd, but it could be a costume. I don't know. That's the thing, is that it could be a publicity stunt at the root of it. That's just weird. That's just an out of the ordinary type of publicity stunt for like somebody like a zoo to do. You would think a zoo would be focused on literal zoology and not, crazy, what they would consider make-believe made up animals and all that. I don't know. It's just, it's fascinating to me. This new thing came out. And the story of the zookeeper, I don't know enough about being a zookeeper to know if the details that he puts in the story are true or false.
I'm so worried now because now you're going to really go into a deep dive.
I'm going to go on a deep dive.
Everything that
I'm going to have to go
zookeepers do.
live as a zookeeper for a week just to see.
Oh, Cryptid Response had a good little thing here. The Bible speaks of a spiritual realm that exists parallel to our own. I think that this could be happening on more than one level. I see a lot of correlation with encounters we hear about.
Yes. Cryptid Response is the resident Hellbent Holler biblical scholar.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's true. Again, if you don't want to take a Christian viewpoint of it, it's not just the Christians who say this, that there's this parallel world that you want to talk about, and whether it's the fairy realm or one of like 1,000 other type of things that are just not quite normal reality. You know what I'm saying? That's everywhere. There's like a spiritual component. I mean, the Cherokee talked about that. The Cherokee have a lot of stuff like that, where they have these creatures that are basically the equivalent of European elves that lived here sometimes, but they weren't always here. They were just kind of slightly out of phase.
Almost every culture has like a pantheon of gods and like an other of some kind.
Olympus, Asgard, you know, fairy, anything like that. So
Crypto Castleberry says, I've heard reports of Bigfoot crossing a road in front of a car and the
car loses power.
Yeah, you're looking at, you know, there's all those very strange little cases where there's paranormal activity surrounding what would be considered like ghostly activity surrounding Bigfoot encounters or Bigfoot sightings. A lot of times with more traditional sort of Bigfoot groups, they would throw that out.
They throw that out. But if you look at a lot of this stuff, okay, we were just talking about, like, again, we talk about the Fae sometimes. I know some people kind of chuckle at that because you've got that Disney-fied version of like Tinkerbell through your head. But like traditional, like European, the Fae. Bigfoot,
I'm talking child stealing.
But if you get down to it, a lot of them reported as being, you have some standard like archetypes of them. You have the small diminutive ones. You have the taller, more graceful, like the elf queen types. But then you have the others that are usually more brutish, you know, like trolls, dwarves. A lot of them are reported as being hairy. And when you get down to it, a lot of the stuff that people report with Sasquatch stuff matches up really closely with fairy lore. You know, the lights, okay? The lights that would accompany like the fairy courts, the will-o-wisps, the jack-o'-lanterns and everything like that you weren't supposed to follow into the woods, where people report seeing those orbs around areas with like Sasquatch activity, you know? So a lot of that, there's a lot of parallels to that if you take that filter down, those parallels are pretty easy to see. So
Christopher Lineberry says the cryptids, UAPs, and all of this other weirdness are all connected. I believe they are working on an eventual global takeover. You know, the end time battle for the souls of men between Jesus and Lucifer.
You were not alone in that theory. There's a lot of people who think that the activity is building up. And
I think all these things, I mean, I like we've mentioned before today, actually, like two sides of the same coin when it comes to Dogman, Sasquatch, what we refer to as aliens. I think that not only are they connected, like they work in some sort of, not that they're just working in tandem, that they're separate entities, but they could be all the same entity. It's just a different form.
Just different aspect of it's either how it's presenting itself or how you're interpreting what it is. So Cryptid
Response is so right. That's what Sam Burton says. Chaos says all cultures have their own cultural version of the same thing.
Yeah, there are recurring themes in almost everything. There was a great flood. There's going to be a time of like judgment and a final cataclysm. So yeah, there's recurring themes and a lot of different stuff. And you could say that's because each religion has influenced subsequent variations of it, and everything goes back to a common root, or it's just that the people in different parts of the world all experience the same thing. And all, when they sat down to to record these things, all of them put their own cultural spin on the same events that everybody had kind of
But
shared
there is that
worldwide.
common thread, you know. Existers Revitalization says is half native. No, we don't like little people.
No, the little people are, and I always say that, man, that if you want to look at any of these entities, the one that if you look at it just from a completely logical standpoint, a small humanoid would have the best opportunity to actually live and stay hidden if it was just a completely terrestrial.
As opposed to a 9-foot tall hairy beast.
Yeah, it's you live in the cave systems, live in the mountains. If they were intelligent and they were, that's something that, and a lot of times they're mischievous at best, and then they're flat out malevolent at worst. You know what I'm saying? So.
Free Press goes, the Goblin King David Bowie sends his puckwudgies to steal babies. I would always get very angry at the end of that movie because, like, if I was Sarah, I would just stay with the Goblin King in the Goblin Kingdom.
Yeah. But I mean, that's
I wouldn't go back home. That's
Mhm.
boring. I would stay in the Goblin Kingdom with David Bowie. I had a huge crush on David Bowie back then too. When it was like my first love. A lot of information.
All you weird girls run the same pattern. You know what I'm saying?
Do.
So
we can't help it. It's true. I'd watch Legend too, and I'd be like, I'd stay with Darkness. Look at that awesome dress.
Legend's a good thing to go off on like a tangent here real quick. Look at the creatures in Legend. They're horrifying. Jenny Green Teeth and all of that.
Yeah.
And again, I'm mostly familiar with like some Eastern, but mostly like Central and Western, like European, like folklore. But those were like horror stories, basically. You know what I'm saying? These were like terrifying creatures, and people would tell these stories around fires at night to freak each other out in kind of cautionary tales. You know what I'm saying? And then, some of them were used to children to kind of use every culture's got their version of the boogeyman to try to keep kids close by. But a lot
Spearfinger, which we discussed last week, is actually one of those.
But I mean, it seems like a lot of these, like a lot of this folklore, was not just to scare kids, but it was kind of a roadmap on how to survive and deal with some of these things that people are still experiencing to this day. So,
Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, "Are you aware of any Dogman documentaries worth watching, and do you think there should be more? Also, what is your favorite Bigfoot documentary?"
If you want to call it a documentary, because even though it has recreations in it, but American Monsters is
American Werewolves.
American Werewolf is phenomenal. It's great.
It's really good, and I think he's doing a follow-up to that too.
And then I can't remember what the other one. I know I don't want it to turn into like a small town monsters like fanboy fest, but the Beast of Bray Road one that he did was really good, and it's really good if you're familiar with the story. If nothing else, but for the one-on-one interviews with the animal control officer.
Yeah.
The guy that had that file with werewolf, and then you written on it, and you realize how much he thought that there was an occult aspect to what's going on for there. As far as like Bigfoot documentaries go, I don't know. I can't think of. Most of them are either firmly in it's an undiscovered ape territory, or they're just so off into like off the rails in the other direction, but they don't really do anything to kind of like back those theories up. I'm sure I probably enjoyed the old Monster Quest episodes more than anything else. So In Search of is what, like every other guy my age, In Search of is what got us as a kid. So
yeah. Rob S. says, just south of the largest mound east of St. Louis, quarter mile away, is a small standing bluff with a cave that has bars on it. According to Native Americans, it is the entrance to Agartha.
Cool. I have not heard of that. So
I'm very fascinated by native earthworks and mounds. And like we've actually discussed before, that a lot of them weren't, that the local native populations don't even claim them. They say that they were there when they got there.
Do you know what the Native Americans term? Agartha was a European term for it, for the inner earth kind of kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what that particular Native American tribe's word for it is. But I'm gonna St. Louis. Cool. I'm gonna see if I can try to track that down. Thank you.
What the flock? Thank you for that. Thank you for all that you do and bringing all of us enjoyable and informative content. Appreciate y'all. We appreciate y'all. We appreciate you guys joining us for our live streams on Mondays. We have so much fun with doing this with you guys.
It's weird because I kind of dreaded the first one doing it just because we'd never done it.
We were so nervous.
Now I look forward to doing it every Monday.
Yeah, so, I do too. It's really just enjoyable to hang out and talk with you guys, and you guys like present us with a lot of new ideas. And of course, we get some good laughs in too. Make sure you hit that like button. We do appreciate you guys being part of this. Make sure you share our stuff too. Hop back in here.
Kaiju Ninja says they are repopulating their future with our genes, and that's another. We keep talking about these common threads, and that's a common thread between old European stories of the Fae and possibilities with like the modern UFO and alien
stuff. Yeah,
abduction.
Because the Fae, they would abduct children and they would abduct
children. Well, sometimes not even abduct. Sometimes they would just woo the women, and not even women, but also men.
Oh yeah, because their genetics were like weak.
Their genetics were weak, and they, of course, they didn't use those terms. So they would talk about how they needed to revitalize the bloodline, and sometimes they would take them down just for the sole purpose of procreation, and other times they would keep them down there.
Yeah, they would keep them and marry them.
Yeah, similar to the alien portion of it. Now, you don't, with the abduction phenomenon, people are coming back to at least say that they're being abducted. And I'm sure that there are a few people that have gone, well, I can't say I'm sure that the possibility exists that a few people have gone missing, have been taken by these creatures for procreation and never been returned. But you see a lot of parallels in that. You see a lot of parallels with that. There's a lot of parallels between the changeling phenomenon and then alien hybrid offspring. There's a lot of that. So,
Cryptid Response says, if you stop now with the Monday live stream now, the Hellbender ghost will get you.
We didn't even put out any of the equipment tonight just because it was honestly getting distracting going off like that. And we tested it. What's weird is that when we killed the live stream, we left the computers and everything on and just kept trying to test it. We couldn't get it. We only got those responses when we had the live stream going. And remember, like we discussed, is there some sort of energy with having a couple hundred people scattered all over across the country, all involved with this electronically at the same time? Does that have a magnifying effect on the phenomena?
You know what?
Possibly.
That kind of gives me a giggle as we were watching that Ghost Adventures where they were in the Lovelock Triangle and they're just on a Zoom call and they're like, "We're trying an experiment."
And you're just lazy. Is what you're
I was
doing,
like, you're sitting on a Zoom call. Zach is the Spin Master. The Spin Master 5000.
James Barker, a family member, has caught a mountain lion, eastern cougar screaming on their camera system. Yeah, even foxes like sound crazy. Deer can like make a scream. A lot of we've got a lot of people on here that are like hunters and outdoorsmen and women that will tell you that. I mean, like even natural creatures, and a scream that one cougar makes can sound a bit different than a scream another cougar makes. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's, so you have to just individual screams like that. You can say it sounds weird, but you can't say it's a definitive proof of anything. So
there's a practical question here. More on, Daniel Garcia says, more on an outdoors topic. I figured you guys would know this with all your outdoor activities in the past. What acts as the best mosquito repellent? Wearing long sleeve shirts only helps so much.
We use
permethrin, but we do have cats, so it will kill the hell out of a cat. Yeah. So if we use permethrin, we do it away from the cats. We make sure they don't come in contact with it. But what is the one that we use?
Sawyer products. We use Sawyer.
What is that one?
I'm pulling it up right now.
I got that at Appalachian Outfitters, but Sawyer makes it. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now you do, like, you're in the midst of summer. You do have to reapply on a regular basis. But Sawyer makes one that doesn't have permethrin in it, but it does a pretty good job. And
we don't necessarily worry about mosquitoes as much as just the ticks nowadays.
Yeah.
That, I mean, during the height of the summer, we're kind of shut down in a lot of areas because the ticks are so bad, because we don't follow like really well-groomed trails. We're usually following game trails or just cutting through brush. And even with treated clothing, sometimes they're still on you at that point. So
yeah, we had that terrible incident at the LBL with ticks.
Yeah. Christopher Lineberry says it appears cryptids and UAPs are being sighted a lot near or in large cities over the last few years. And that doesn't follow the trend. If you read any John Keel, he talks about how it's kind of it doesn't make sense, but that a lot of the UFO sightings that he would go to seem to take place in the middle of the night in very rural areas. Almost as if the phenomenon was seeking areas where it would be least likely to be seen. Now you're starting to see, like, and I think the one that kicked it into overdrive was like the Phoenix Lights. But then you're getting cryptid reports from like suburban and urban areas, and you're going, that pretty much precludes it from being, I mean, yeah, coyotes and mountain lions even get into like suburban or urban areas, but they're getting caught on game cam. I mean, like security cameras, stuff like that. There's that ring light video that came out a couple of weeks ago of some guy catching a mountain lion fighting a small pack of coyotes in front of his house, again, California somewhere, I think. But you're not catching those cryptids on these security cameras. So that kind of precludes the thing of like, oh, it's from a breeding population outside the city and it just came in to raid trash cans. So they are being seen more often. And what does that mean? I don't know. Does it tie in with somebody mentioned earlier that all of this activity is increasing because we're getting towards the end times? Or what? I don't know, but it seems like it's getting bolder, but
something's building up,
but still as crafty and as elusive as ever.
Yeah,
but bolder though.
It just seems like something is building.
Yeah.
Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, what would Bigfoot and Dogman repellent be besides bullets? And Judy Wheeler follows up with a camera.
A camera, exactly. Exactly right. A camera. There is something to be said that these things can biologically, again, a warm-blooded creature shouldn't be able to see in the infrared spectrum. Sure, they could smell the batteries, they could maybe smell the plastic, they could do all this, but as far as seeing the actual range of the camera, that should be impossible. But it seems like these things do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it seems like these things do. I mean, I talked before about a guy in Oklahoma that had something coming in and like trying to get in his kid's window and like paying a lot of attention to his kids and everything like that. And he was ringing his house with this, and wherever
he was just on the edge outside of where the cameras could
be. And then it did get in, and he figured out that it was able to basically crawl on its just basically worm its way through the small little path to stay out of that. So somehow it was able to sense where the infrared camera was. He put them into the woods behind his house, and he would find rocks and sticks that were marking that he figured out that it was the extreme edge of where the infrared light would illuminate to at night. Almost like saying, hey, you're safe on this side, on that side it's going to pick you up. That makes no sense at all, but it seems like it happens though.
Martin Groves says LBO has chupacabra flesh eating ticks.
Oh yes, it does. So
yeah, we when we were in LBO in the summer, it was awful when we left there. It was one of the most horrific things that ever happened to us. We were just covered in hundreds of them.
M says, I sure miss Art Bell. Man, I do too. There's literally nothing like the old Art Bells in existence right now. Jessi and I have been going down the rabbit hole listening to old ones, and I don't even care what the topic is, even if I have no interest in the topic.
He's just comforting to listen to.
He's comforting to listen to, and just the fact that just nobody has got the interview skills that he does. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, there you go.
Aussie Baza says, the first time I went looking for these things, I had an intense feeling of being watched. 2 days later, I woke up at 3 a.m. with the same feeling. I think one followed home to look. And of course, you're looking at 3 a.m., which is, the witching hour. And, yeah, I mean, it's weird because you have what we've discussed ad nauseum at this point, the hitchhiker effect. And when you go looking for these things, sometimes they'll follow you home and they'll come and look for you. Otherworld Strange Stories says, the government Bigfoot conspiracy, Small Town Monsters, is a good documentary on Bigfoot. YouTube channel, Bedtime Stories, has good paranormal stories.
Yeah, I've seen that particular Small Town Monsters episode. We're insanely behind on like everything at this point. Just because our day jobs are extremely time consuming right now and have all gone hectic. And then just
very much so
the time we're devoting to all of this, but I've seen it. I haven't had a chance to watch it. I'm probably 2 months behind on the Small Town Monsters YouTube channel at this point. So generally, if it's not something that's going to advance whatever we're researching at that moment, I don't have time to do it, even if it's enjoyable, which is sad. But
yeah,
we usually rewatch like horror movies, Halloween, The Ball.
The Ball, Phantasm.
Phantasm, yeah, it was on tip of my tongue. We usually rewatch the Phantasm series like every Halloween.
And we
like,
didn't watch it.
We didn't watch it this year just because we just didn't have time to do it.
We did watch RoboCop. We did.
Well, you got to make time. You got to have your priorities straight. So, yeah.
We did watch RoboCop. Jay Myers says wildfires in California. No wonder they're going into suburban areas. I mean, any sort of like creatures that are in the woods. Yeah,
they're having stuff in the suburbs of like DC, and there's no wildfires there.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, you're talking about the mountain lions and the coyotes. Yeah, I think that too. That just everything's just so out of whack now, man. So.
We're in such a chaotic period, and you have everybody, especially over the past like 3-4 years, everybody has been in such a constant state of stress, of mental stress and chaos. I think the collective unconscious in general is stress and chaos. And I think that that's probably feeding into some of this cryptid activity whipping up more.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that chaos energy is feeding into the phenomenon and giving it some kind of strength or power.
Well, that's the thing, is that no, you can't prove or really do anything. All you have is these theories. And again, we talked about earlier about like the humanization of it, you know, anthropomorphizing the whole thing, putting like a human bend to it. What seems like a logical theory to us may not be logical with this thing. You know what I'm saying? With this whole like absurd set of weirdness that everybody's interested in here. So
Phantasm was my shit.
Yeah, Phantasm's awesome.
Phantasm's
got a good thing. I can't get past the Amarillo thing is why didn't they release the video? This guy claims, and I'm summarizing at this point, I might be getting some of it wrong, but that they didn't release it because it was so disturbing and the creature behaved so weird. But they were basically low-key looking for answers or help. Anybody who would maybe see this and be able to give them some answers as to what it was. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot. The whole thing is just weird, but everything's weird in this. I don't know. I just don't know what to think about it. So. Pull up on this. Otherworld strange stories. What do you think about the Fresno Nightwalkers? I don't know. What is the current prevailing theory on that? That they were puppets or what? I mean, they're odd, and I know that they've been seen, or versions of that have been seen, what, 3 times now? But I don't know. I don't know. That was the last theory I heard, is that they were puppets and that people had figured out, but I never saw anybody demonstrate a puppet like that. So I don't know. So.
Talk about the 3 a.m. stuff. Kevin says that guy's being targeted.
What's that now?
We're talking about the 3 a.m. stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
I just lost hearing in my right ear.
Is this it?
What?
Is this the end?
I don't know. I just completely lost hearing in my right ear. I don't know why. It'll come back in a second. Sly Dog is asking, what leaves 2-legged horse prints 6 feet apart and then it turns into human footprints still 6 feet apart, walks in a straight line in the snow?
I have no clue. 2-legged horse prints?
There's Jersey Devil stuff.
Yeah, there's been reports of the Jersey Devil, and then other, like, usually like 19th century into early 20th century, like cryptid activity that talked about hooves.
Yeah.
That would go up the sides of buildings,
across
rooftops and everything like that. But is this something that's happening to you right now?
Sounds like the Jersey Devil, goat man, a horse squatch.
Horse squatch.
You can just add squatch to anything and just call it a day, I guess. Goat squatch.
Alan Lassiter. Hello, Alan. With all these recent sightings, I'm assuming you think, does CERN open up a portal? There's stuff going on with CERN. I had a guy contact us that was obviously fairly well versed, or at least more so than me, and in the physics as far as this stuff goes. And he said that there's, CERN obviously is not doing it, and there's other parts of the world that have similar but smaller scale things, and that the scientists there are not involved in stuff. And he might very well be right. I don't know. I still don't buy that thing about the ritual being a practical joke. I don't know. It's I don't know. It's awful odd that it's almost like everybody fixated upon CERN, And when they themselves are going, we're going to turn this machine on, we're not quite sure what's going to happen. You know, we might cause a small black hole that will exponentially increase in size until it basically sucks up first the Earth and then the entire universe. It might do this. So I don't know. I'm not ruling it out no matter what somebody tells me. So yeah.
One thing we need to talk about. Have you guys had any Mandela effect recently? Joe and I had one yesterday. We had a Mandela effect yesterday.
Yeah.
The BB rifle.
We're going to buy a BB rifle, plink in the backyard some. And I remember Crossman BB guns being spelled Crossman.
That's what I remember too. Yeah.
And now it's Crossman.
It's just
Crossman. Not Crossman.
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 Yeah.
Does anybody else remember Crossman?
Or Crossman.
I'm glad you brought that up. So
yeah, every time we talk about CERN, I have to talk about her latest Mandela effect. I know last time it was the Chick-fil-A thing with the K being in there, but I remember it being a C because I always thought it was stupid that it was spelled CHIC. But
Kaya says his grandmother used to threaten us with Boogie Joe. That's what she called her slipper, the chancla.
The chancla.
Yeah.
Death by chancla. Joe's taken a chancla before to the
yeah. Shinob, ever heard of the Snallygaster? Yeah, we don't know her, but we're familiar with the girl that's starting the Snallygaster Museum.
Yeah.
She's starting up a little museum that is devoted to Snallygaster related stuff.
Everybody remembers Cross with 2 S's. Yeah, it's Crossman, but it could have been
a Crossman now.
This guy says it could have been a marketing change. You know what? The best way to do is look for old advertisements for Crossman BB guns and see how it's spelled. I had to do that with Chick-fil-A. I had to go look at old.
Nope. Showing results for Crossman BB gun. It's Google is just telling me that I need to search for Crossman. There's nothing.
Type in Crossman ad, like an ad for one, and then so you can see like that, like an ad from 1995 or something. There you go.
Hold on to your hat.
Here.
Crossman.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's CROSMAN, 1 S. No way. That is not okay. Oof. All right. Crossman has changed as well. Yeah, and we just looked at an old advert for it.
And it's back from like the 50s or 60s, wherever that was from. It's supposedly Crossman.
Yeah.
So.
It's Crossman. Yeah. Now, a marketing change, it says that it's always been Crossman.
It's always been like that.
So it's a stupid Mandela effect thing again. Well, the Flux says, I don't know, I have Daisy. See, I had a Daisy growing up. That's what I always had. I was like, let's just get a Daisy. It's not been affected by the time-space
Kaiju
continuum.
Ninja always comes up with the good questions. What did you think of the bug story on Art Bell? I don't ever go by people go, oh, that was debunked, because I just was it really? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he ever gave Art that map. And I think that they eventually figured out who he was, but I don't know much about it past that original couple of like episodes that he was on, because supposedly he killed the Bigfoot. He buried it. I think he killed like 2. I don't know, but he buried them somewhere and marked it on a map. And he had it down that when he passed away, Art Bell was going to get that map and be able to go to the area and retrieve the bones of the Bigfoot that he killed. And I don't think Art ever got the map, and I don't know what happened with that, but I don't know if he was ever debunked or not. So
Dumpster Diving Dogman says, yeah, Crossman and the crosshairs were the symbol.
Now it is Crossman and were the crosshairs the symbol? Still back then? Let's see.
No one you know says, I think it's always been Crossman, and we just don't expect that spelling, so we think it was with 2 S's.
How much did they pay you to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good night, Frank. James Barker. Where you at? James Barker? Here we go. James Barker, Jessi and Joe, NAF check. NAF check.
Oh,
You can go first.
I'm using an old Cold Steel vintage
Gunsight,
the extra large version. So
okay. I meet your gun sight with a old school Cold Steel made in Japan Scimitar. Yeah, look at that, guys. You can let us know who wins the knife battle for today. Daryl Zierland says it had 2 S's. Crosman check.
Crosman check. So
we did a Crosman check and we all failed. Matt Keenan says every time the gray aliens go back in time, the past gets changed and a new Mandela effect gets created.
there you go.
God, these guys, man, they're killing us. Killing us. Corbin Cook wants to know, when are y'all going back to the LBL?
We were trying to get there in November, and then we were trying to get there in December.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know.
Our jobs are chaotic and hectic, and it's hard for us to get away from them.
And we can't
because
pay the bills chasing Dogman. So we have to be able to fund this thing. And we originally took both of our jobs because we had ample free time off. But what has happened is that it seems like, and I don't want to get political or in anything like that, but it seems like a large portion of the population is suffering extreme health issues.
Yeah, and they're getting...
And please don't mention why you think that is in the chat, because we don't want to get dinged with YouTube again, but it's chaos around here. So I don't know. I would still like to get there in December, but I just don't know if that's possible because just from logistics of it.
So we're trying to game, well, also with like the holiday and everything, you know, everybody is always trying to take off time, and then everybody always has problems around the holiday and they lie about being sick or all this other stuff. So we can't really get away in December like we wanted to.
Yeah.
So it looks like January, February is what's happening. We went in February this year.
We were trying to hit it again before winter set in, and it's just every time we started to make plans, like life got at it. So you know what I'm saying? Until we get that deep pocketed sponsor that's going to sponsor Hellbent Holler as a full-time thing, we gotta keep the lights on and you know, so there you go.
Yep. Everybody's talking about Mandela effect stuff, like the guy from Coach who died twice. Rob S says CERN is bleeding or mixing realities together, hence the Mandela effect.
Started when Harambe got killed.
That was the kickoff.
That was the kickoff when reality just took up. Yeah.
William Kennedy says we both have those cold steel knives that they came out with the similar folding first before Joe's extra large serrated blade, 5-inch serrated blade Tanto version.
Yeah, it's the XL. It's the gun sight version of the old Voyagers. So
Kaiju Ninja suggested that we go there on New Year's Eve.
That would be a liminal time, like a crossover time.
It would, but also there's going to be a lot of fireworks going off over the lake.
Yeah.
And anything we record is just going to be full of pop, 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 pop. So no, we don't go out and film or go do anything near anywhere where there's people on. Just because you 4th can't, of July.
You can't, and anytime that there's like when COVID first hit in, a lot of people were out in like the woods, you know what I'm saying? Because you couldn't do anything else. So the areas we go to are not very easily accessible. So we didn't see people there, but miles away, there would be people like camping and like setting off fireworks and like going crazy and stuff like that. So, you know, the noise traveled a great deal. So we couldn't trust anything that we heard out there. We couldn't definitively say, we think this is anomalous sound or whatever. Well, there were people partying and shooting off guns and setting off fireworks a few miles away from us. So
yeah,
it really cut into what we were able to do. So
Jay Myers says, no money, no toys for chasing the Dogman.
Exactly, man.
Correct.
This is not a cheap thing to do, man. You guys have seen the equipment that we use. Because again, the whole goal is to try to capture some of the stuff that people talk about.
Get some solid evidence.
People tell us, well, just don't take anything. We're not trying to experience it. We've experienced it. We're not trying to convince ourselves. We're not really trying to convince anybody. I mean, the goal is to try to capture evidence of some of the stuff you constantly hear people tell stories about. And we've captured some stuff, you know?
Yeah. We've captured good stuff.
I don't think we're ever going to get that smoking gun. We might, who knows, man? But
we're going to damn well try.
We're going to try, though, you know? So.
Contagious Cajun says, if I win Powerball, I'll respond to you. Thank you, man.
Please, so, yeah.
Let's see. I guess Sinbad wasn't Shazam.
Sinbad wasn't Shazam. The chick in James Bond's Jaws did not have braces, which makes no sense at all because I remember that. That's why that was the bonding moment, the braces and all of that. It just.
Brian Wigful says, hey guys, speaking of the Mandela effect, about 4 months ago, I got into an elevator at my local shopping center and found a brand new empty pack of Marlboro that hasn't been available for 27 years.
Was that Mandela effect or was that a time slip?
That's a time slip. Cigarette time slip. That's what that is, boy. Mikey likes it, says, Jess.
Thank you. Look towards that flannel. I'm going to hit the restroom real quick. Be right back.
I have a jacket I could put on. Thank you, Mikey likes it. Oh, gosh. Goodness gracious. Mandela effect stuff just makes me angry because I'm just like, you're changing my life. I know a lot of people don't believe in it, but that's okay. Mikey likes it says, I know your jobs are hectic, but have you ever considered coming up north to the Michigan area? I hear that's a huge area for Dogman. We haven't made it that north yet. We are limited by our jobs. We have to kind of we take a week off at a time, maybe twice a year, and that's it. Just to do these things. Other than that, we can only leave for a couple of days at a time because we are committed to our jobs. We do have to pay our bills and do the normal stuff, and then try to do this as well. But eventually we would like to branch outside of the Appalachian area. Richard Towers says, New Year's Eve was a good idea. Made me think of the winter solstice. That might be a time of heightened activity too. Like I said, you're going to have the interference from people shooting fireworks. It happens every 4th of July, every New Year's Eve, and the kind of the weekends prior to those holidays as well. It's hard to be out there and record anything or get any kind of evidence or hear anything because you just constantly have popping and explosions in the sky. So it kind of becomes a wash. It becomes a waste. I'd love to go on the winter. My birthday is actually the winter solstice. I was born on the winter solstice. So I'd like to go on the winter solstice. That'd be nice because it's the longest night of the year. It's December 21st. So we'd have the longest night of the year to do an investigation. I think that would be kind of cool. But it looks like we are going to push our LBL trip back to January as of right now.
Got dead air in here, man.
I was looking at, we got another one. Britney Spears has a plaid dress on in her music video. It wasn't a black miniskirt. Okay, I remember it being a black miniskirt and a pink fuzzy top for Baby One More Time. That's what I remember. And then the white puffball things on her pigtails.
I'm a dude, so I have no clue. So,
yeah.
Wow. Christopher Lindberry. These cryptids are very susceptible to copper bullets. I heard the government has to kill teams, and that's what they use to defeat them along with other stuff. If rushed, shoot them in the leg, then the head. I'm hearing that copper. You've definitely heard that copper stuff a lot more recently. It's copper traditionally has had properties against like the supernatural. Copper was like something that was used against witches. You know what I'm saying? So if I remember correctly, Kolchak, the Night Stalker, like punched a witch in the face holding like a roll of pennies in his hand. If I remember correctly, good old Kolchak. So, but it seems like that's had a resurgence in like at least the discussion lately. So yeah, but copper has had in certain cultures has been a traditional like kind of like remedy against like some of the more malicious supernatural elements and everything like that. So I know that Joe from Michigan talked about, I believe he used a copper round to shoot that. Maybe that's what sparked it, but we hear about that pretty constantly now about the solid copper rounds. So
Dead End Yard Haunt says, I just checked my pellets and it's Crossman with one S. It doesn't look
right. Doesn't look right, does it? So
now we've ruined your day. We've ruined your day. Let's see.
Did you go about this with the solstice?
Yeah, okay, I did. I talked about it's my birthday. But it would be nice to like be out there for like the longest night of the year, this liminal time.
Yeah, I mean, we were there during the summer solstice.
Yeah,
and had weird stuff happen.
Yes, that's when we got the thermal image on summer solstice.
I saw that thing on like summer solstice.
Yeah,
but yeah, it'd be interesting to be there on the winter solstice. I just don't know if logistically if we're gonna be able to do it or not.
Yeah.
So
We could go and do some. No, we can't do anything on my birthday. I have to go work on. I have to work on my
exactly,
birthday.
so.
I'm working on my birthday. Never mind.
No, your jobs are hectic. Have you ever considered coming up north? Yeah, we've actually got a friend who's up in Michigan that we'd love to get up there and see him. Just like we usually operate, just because it's a good rule of thumb to have research areas around where you live at, because you can spend more time in those research areas. But we really need to start breaking off time to like maybe 2 or 3 times a year, go out on like a big multi-day expedition and to just kind of like stretch our wings into some other areas and stuff like that.
Cryptid Response says, I call dibs on driving the Hellbent Holler research van once the millions get
did you have this with Jay Myers?
Yeah.
So.
Sorry about that. Contagious Cajun says all those fireworks going off would be like opening day on hunting season, and just like the deer running around, maybe Dogman and others would be up and running.
Yeah.
The deer kind of hunker down when it's like that. They don't like run around crazy. It's just you can't get anything. Anything you try to record is completely corrupted by that. It's corrupted by the sound and the lights. And especially like somewhere like the LBL across the lake, you have people that live across the lake. And I grew up near a lake, and every time there is something going on, they shoot fireworks at the lake. So it's just not feasible. Go ahead, Joe.
Spray some W40 on that door. I think of that every time we do this. I go, because we have a small room that we have. I'm looking at racks of equipment and a gun safe and backpacks and various projects that we have going on over here. And then we turn this side into like a little studio. Yeah. So, but yeah, you were right there, my friend. Thank you for calling me out on that. So
Jay Myers says, my birthday is 6 days after yours. Jessi, I'm the 27th. I'm the 21st. This Christmas birthdays.
Hi, Patricia.
Short end of the stick.
How are you? There's always a stench of decomposition connected with Dogman. Why is that? You have that with Sasquatch some too, but not always with Sasquatch. Sasquatch, you've heard stuff about just like the smell that you would normally get off a large animal like that. Bears don't smell very good.
No.
There were some Sasquatch researchers who claimed that they would soak in hot springs, and it was the sulfur content in there. Now, if you think back, sulfur is usually associated with like demonic activities, the smell of sulfur,
right?
Brimstone and stuff like that. So,
sulfur does remove odor, though. There's like in my Birch box, I received a soap that actually has like charcoal and like a sulfur component to it, and it's used for like people who go hiking a lot.
I don't know. I think that it would be.
I mean, I'm just saying that's
with Dogman. I think that's a
demonic thing.
A demonic thing with Dogman. So I think that's a demonic thing.
Contagious Cajun says Joe mentioned witches and looks immediately at Jessi.
You know. Rob S., you will get the smoking gun because you guys think outside the box. Thank you for saying that. So,
happy birthday to Watt the Flock, by the way.
Hey, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Hope you're getting out there and doing something.
Dead in Yard Hunt. Amazon is advertising a Crossman BB gun. A screen saved the picture. Got them. They are busted.
Seriously? I'm going to go to Amazon.
They missed one. They missed one, of course.
We even looked up, I did a quick Google search for old, like vintage
ads, yeah.
Crossman. That just doesn't, it's so weird.
It's not right.
It's not right. There's no way that somebody can convince me that's right. I'm not even seeing anything that says Crossman. All I'm seeing is Crossman. If you've got that, send it to us. I'd like to see it. So
Corey says, howdy, Justin Joe. Have you seen David Pilates had recently did a few episodes on Sasquatch?
Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't had a chance to watch all of it. I watched a few minutes of the first one. I think you're talking about like the master class or whatever he's doing, like 101, 102, 103. I have, I'm familiar with it. Have you watched any of it at all? Or I just haven't had a chance to watch much of it. So all of the stuff that we are able to kind of like read or watch nowadays is all very narrowly focused for whatever we're working on at that time. I'm still involved with like infrasonic stuff, like trying to like, learn more and more about infrasound. Our friend Dewey,
The Dooster
just built a really like overpowered like EM pump. So I'm thinking about doing something like that. So, and then there's like, as far as the actual phenomena goes, we're both kind of like brushing up on our valet and our keel right now, because it's kind of bookending into what we're doing as far as like physical research goes. So anything that's not really tied into that narrow sliver that we're looking into right now is kind of on the back burner.
Yeah, even if I'm doing like housework, I'm listening to podcasts and just it's a 24/7 kind of situation right now. Crypto Castleberry says, searching for Dogman with people around shooting fireworks reminded like the movie Silver Bullet. All right, so Dead End Yard Haunt is on a mission. He's going to go look at
this is your mission.
Guns.
Don't get too close, though. Richard Tower, have you both known of stories of Dogman all your lives? I've heard of Sasquatch as a boy, but never once heard of Dogman until the last couple of years. Maybe it's too cold for them up here. Yes, exact same way. I said everybody had heard of Sasquatch. Well, not everybody, but most people had heard of Sasquatch or Bigfoot or everything like that. And then there's a lot of like regional instances of like werewolf-like creatures. There's a bunch in Kentucky, Michigan, Wisconsin, places like that. There was one near us, the Anderson werewolf, but they never really caught on nationally or globally like Sasquatch did. And then all of a sudden, like I said, I think that, Linda Godfrey probably did a lot to
bring it to the
popularize
forefront.
Yeah. That. But I always go back to the fact that people may have been seeing them all along, but getting glimpses of them and then interpreting them as Sasquatch, because that's what people are expecting to see. So I think that a lot of Sasquatch activity is a lot of Sasquatch reports might have seen something tall and hairy and dark, but it wasn't ape-like, it was dog-like at that point. So, but even then, we didn't really, it was a curiosity to us.
Dead End Yard Haunt sent me the screen cap of the Amazon ad, and it does say Crossman with 2 S's. And it says it twice in the ad. So,
but even to finish that, even then we were very hesitant about it, because when you look at the Dogman phenomenon, if you start going through like Facebook groups and Reddit and just kind of like listening to podcasts and everything like that, you're going to hear some really sensational stuff that it's really hard to kind of have to validate any of that. So even then we kind of were amused by the whole thing until we went to the LBL, and then we came away going, there's something to this. And then you start, like I said, scratch and kind of look below the surface, and you start realizing there's some really credible witnesses out there, like Martin Groves, other people like that.
Good night, Sheila.
And so so it's only recently that we've really started to focus on it and really see some validity to it. Mikey likes it, says all of a sudden there's all these new cryptids being talked about all the time. Jessi has a thing where she compares it to Pokemon. You got to catch them all.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. It's Gugwies, it's this, it's that. And I'm going, you guys are apparently so knowledgeable that you know about all these like little subsets of it, but yet we can't prove anything, Obviously a creature that is wolf-like or canine-like in appearance is going to be visually different than one that is ape-like or man-like in appearance. But yeah, all of a sudden it's just like everybody has to have their own little personal pet cryptid.
This is a good point here.
The
Chaos. I think people are reluctant to share werewolf encounters, which is why the Dogman term emerged to provide a less fictitious vibe.
That's a great point.
Yes, that is a great point.
But when you talk to a lot of people, especially in these rural areas, the ones that you can get to talk to you, they don't say a Dogman's coming around. No. It's a werewolf. There's a werewolf around
because that's the closest thing they can relate to.
Closest approximation.
The closest approximation,
which makes them
something that they're familiar with.
Less likely to talk about it.
Yeah. People we've spoken to outside of the LBL have used the term werewolf. because they don't know the term Dogman. They're not a part of this whole subculture, this genre. They don't look into this stuff. They just know what they saw, and they can approximate it to what they've seen as the Hollywood werewolf. So that's the term they have for it.
Let's look at it. So you're someone who doesn't really have an interest in cryptozoology or UFOs or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? You're a quote unquote normal person. You're not interested in this. And then you have an up close, undeniable sighting of a 7-foot tall wolf-like creature. It's traumatic. You don't know what to do. You don't really know who to talk to about it, everything like that. So you do what anybody would do in the 21st century. You hit the internet and you try to find out about it. And what are you met with? You're met with really crazy stories, really crazy behavior. You're met with a lot of self-aggrandizing behavior. Okay. You're met with like crazy creepypasta. And that's a small subset of very vocal, loud people with some really crazy claims. And then everybody else just hating on them, calling them crazy. You're going to be quiet as well. That's why when we talk to people who are just like, who was the guy that got the Dogman puppy? I'm sure somebody knows about it. He raised it and everything like that. And I just, and it was his protector, and they would do all this crazy stuff. And I'm going, not once you thought about snapping a photo. You obviously want to share the story, or else we never would have heard about it. You obviously want people to believe you. And I asked
that question because somebody brought it up in one of our chats one time. They're like, "Oh, I don't know what the dog is named, Snickers or something."
Yeah.
But he was like talking about that, and I was like, "Okay, so but never once did you want to take a photo of this? You're obviously willing to share."
Well, I didn't want anybody to know. Well, then why are you telling us now?
He was family was military, not allowed, and I'm like,
and I'm just going.
And this is are you suggesting that someone lied on the internet?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm suggesting. But that's become the more so than like Sasquatch. That's become the front facing aspect of Dogman. So, and I understand it because some of the stories are great. And guess what? I'm willing to admit that some of them may not be stories. Some of them might be sensational things that actually happened. But the big thing is the people that have these completely drawn out, elaborate stories with multiple years of experience, up close experience with these creatures, but they can't like show anything, There were Sasquatch researchers that used to say that they knew their travel patterns, their dietary habits. They knew the sulfur ponds where these things would go to soak themselves in to get rid of ticks. One of them got picked up over a Sasquatch's shoulder, and he pulled a 44 out and fired it next to its ear to get him to drop him. And then they just go right back to school. And I'm going, nobody in your party, like after you were down, took a photo? No, we just didn't, we don't want to take their photo. We don't want them to feel uncomfortable. But when that happens to that point, that's unbelievable. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. Now, when you have somebody like Martin Groves tells the story and there's no elaboration. This is where I was. This is what I was doing. This is what happened to me. I don't know what it was. This is what I think, but I can't prove anything else about it. That's a legitimate story. That's a believable story. And there's lots of people out there with stories like that of like, I don't know what's going on. This is what's happening. I don't have a name for it. I haven't spent any time with it. I don't know its tribe or its clan or anything like that. I've just got this thing coming around my house that killed my dog. Here's pictures of my dead dog. Here's pictures of the track. We're seeing things in the tree line at night. This is happening. This is happening. That's believable. That's legit,
Richard Towers says that I'm going to do some work in the at a Northern Reserve soon. I'll be sure to ask a few elders if they have any Dogman in their history. Yeah, let us know.
And let us know. So yeah,
they have lots to say about Sasquatch. Yeah, I'm curious. Chase Barger, we can't harsh the Squatch's mellow, man.
Stephanie Light asked she's seen most of David Pilates' Sasquatch class. It's pretty good. Are you excited for his new movie? Very much excited. Very much excited for it. If you've paid any attention to him, he's definitely been leaning towards more of like a interdimensional portal kind of explanation for a lot of this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And he doesn't come out and say it, but he peppers his language with a lot where he's talking about extra dimensional predators, basically, for the lack of a better term. And I think that this is going to play into a lot of it.
And you can't, you can't just say that what is going on is one thing or another. It's not black or white, and it's not one entity or another.
Oh yeah, I know. But yeah.
It's I think it's good that he's sort of approaching this from a cross spectrum way.
Mhm.
He obviously believes in Sasquatch, you know, and
Yeah,
he obviously
obviously, yeah.
believes in extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings.
Mhm. Rob S., did you guys see the response Elijah Henderson probably got on Halloween with the dog whistle? No, I didn't know that he went. He's been sick, so we haven't really talked to him for a bit. And we periodically talk to him. He's not somebody that I call on the phone every day or anything like that. But I know he's had the dog whistle and he's got that Aztec death whistle he's been wanting to go try. So it's interesting. No, I'll have to go check that video out and see what he got. David Kunst. Dark Waters has a map of Dogman sightings. Yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, there's a lady from, I believe she's from Great Britain, that goes by Cloaked Hedgehog.
Yeah, that's a great resource.
I don't know if she's still updating it. And I tried to do a quick Google search the other day and I couldn't find the map. I don't know if the map has changed locations or if it's not down anymore. But I mean, she has everything. There's no vetting of this information at all. If she hears a story on a podcast or reads it in a book or anything like that, it goes on the map. So you're getting unfiltered data, for better or worse. But that's a great resource.
What the Flock says, when I saw Sasquatch in 1979, I didn't think about going home and finding my Polaroid and going back for a photo.
But notice what you said. You saw a Sasquatch in 1979, which means that was a singular event. Okay.
And
it was probably extremely traumatic for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you could not be expected to take a photo.
We're not referring to that. We're referring to people who claim that they have these serial encounters where it's going on and going on and just a predictable cycle of seeing
and what happens
creatures and interacting with them and having relationships with them.
And I know their language and they taught me they're this and this.
That's what we're referring to.
That's what we're referring to. But here's what happens is that because those people, you go, well, you were in such close proximity for so long, why didn't you try to do something to back your story up? Obviously, you want your story to be believed or you wouldn't be telling it right now, okay? You wouldn't be sharing the story if you did not want people to hear you and believe you. Why did you not take steps in order to kind of like buttress your believability at this point? And what that does is that hurts her counts like yours, where you had a singular sighting of one creature, probably it happened extremely fast. It was extremely traumatic. And then people are doing the exact same thing to you. Why didn't you take a photo? Well, because it happened so fast, you know. These little flights of fancy that people take, and we don't try to debunk people and we don't try to like argue with people and everything like that. And who knows, some of the stories might be true, but it definitely puts the real witnesses, people that are like self-aggrandizing, using this stuff for attention, really hurt the people who have legitimately had stuff happen to them, you know? So.
Now somebody mentioned that I went full nerd laugh. Now we're going to have to hear the terrible cicada impression. Somebody goes, it's a wonderful impression.
Stephanie Light is leaving out. I hope you feel better. Lots of illnesses going around right now. So,
and we're going to be wrapping it up shortly.
Yeah.
Because it is about dinner time for the Hellbent Holler crew.
Hold on a second. Kaios. I had a Labrador puppy who loved him like her own.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of the story? Because the guy we're referring to, I couldn't tell you his name if we'd known about it, but I've had people, I think he like gave me grief online about something one time about one of our videos, was like posting that's not how Dogman acted, and I didn't know who he was. And somebody clued me into that he was just some guy who supposedly rescued a Dogman puppy and all that. And I don't know the full story, but I was just very amused by the fact that it was just so matter of fact about it, you know.
Yeah. And calling you a dumbass.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Dumpster diving dog man. Horrible cicada rendition, please.
You guys have got to stop paying her for this. Good Lord. So
anyway. Keep paying me. Yes. This is my version of OnlyFans. Okay, I do cicada impressions for $5. Okay. All right. There you go.
Oh, good Lord. Anyway,
he's gonna start hearing that in his sleep.
So
all right. Let's.
Kaiju Ninja's got something real good here, real quick. So, Dogman must hear a dog whistle, right? I don't know. Just because it shares canine, like an appearance, like physical things, you would assume that, but that might be a bad assumption. One of the things we want to do when I get this infrasound thing kind of put to bed is I want to look at not using a dog whistle, but get some of these like these ultrasonic generation devices that people use for like pest control or, you know, to kind of like shy dogs away and everything like that. There's tech out there that's commercially available. I've got to see if we can tailor it to what we use it for. Can we maybe generate up like an electric ultrasonic sound and get some sort of response? I don't know. So, but yeah, that's my thought process too, is that maybe, just maybe, that might be something we want to look into doing. So.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
We've been at it all like we usually do. We went the full 3-hour show time. If you guys have anything else you want to throw in there and anything to say, Destiny Campbell goes, oh, no, it wasn't Destiny. Destiny responded to this. Where is it? Destiny's correct with her response in it. Jay said, if you're feeling sick, you need to take a shot of Fireball whiskey. That'll loosen everything up. And Destiny was absolutely correct in saying, Jay, all Fireball will do for me is maybe throw up, not loosen up. I guess that's loosening up a little bit.
Yep, loosening up something. So.
Oh, God, I hate Fireball.
All right, guys. So we have got... we're kind of wrapping up right now. We're going to be releasing a video for those of you that watch our channel all the time. Just be aware that we're going to release a clip of just the audio we captured. So
from that last field investigation
where we get the growls and the clicks and the humming and everything like that, we're just going to release that. The goal is to try to get that exposed to more people, just to see if anybody else can chime in and go, hey, I've heard something similar. You might even see what kind of we don't usually do clickbaity titles. If anything, we usually use pretty vague titles that other normal people look at it and go, what the hell? But we're going to try to put that out there. So just be aware, if you see it on the channel and you watch a lot of our stuff, it's something, it's a sliver of that last field investigation video that we put out. We're going to be releasing that just to see if we can get some more ears on it. We are interested in people's opinions on that. We've got another video. It's going to be kind of brief. That's when we return to that spot the following week. We found some possibly weird stuff. Yeah. We're trying not to read too much into it, but we'll release that. So you'll have both of those coming out soon. We got a dark dive coming out. Mm-hmm. We'll be out in the woods for a couple of days this week, looking to see what we find. So got some cool stuff
looking
coming
forward
from
to
y'all.
it. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled and your ears open, and make sure before you guys leave that you hit that like button. We really appreciate you guys joining us for another Hellbent Holler live. We love doing these on Mondays. You guys are awesome. You always give me a good laugh. And also look around for new Mandela effects that may surround you, and see if you can find any Crossman stuff with 2 S's on it. You get a gold star if you find something with 2 S's on it, other than what I got. Dead End Yard Haunt sent me that on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram, speaking of which, at Hellbent Jessi. We have our address down there below. Somebody sent me a really cool piece of art. I got it in the mail today, and it is really freaking awesome. So somebody sent that to my P.O. box. So I really, really appreciate that. Our email address is down there. It's hellbentholler@gmail.com. You can send us your encounters. You can send us cool pictures. You can send us all kinds of stuff. And we really appreciate you guys hanging out and spending some time with us on a Monday night. As usual, we'll be back next Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And by then we should have some other videos and stuff out through the weekend. And we're heading out into the woods in a couple of days. So that'll be fun. So with that being said, we're going to let you guys run, because I know you guys are going to want to talk to each other in the chat, tell everybody goodbye and everything. But as far as the Hellbent Holler crew goes, we're going to make some dinner and hit the sack. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. We love you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you. I have to fix this and do this correctly. There we go. Now, bye, guys.